Councilmember Cole is absent. Councilmember Schwer.
Here.
Councilmember Wong.
Here.
Councilmember Nordby.
Here.
Mayor Mungy.
Here. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved?
So moved by Councilmember Schwer.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Norby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. All you.
Thank you, Mayor. First topic up is Ramsey County HRA levy discussion, and we'll start that off with a quick staff report from Brandy Howe, our Community Development Director.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Dean?
So you might recall a meeting back in April where we had a very full agenda, and on that agenda was Ramsey County doing a presentation on the HRA levy. I thought tonight would be a good opportunity to revisit that, to kind of close the loop on that discussion so we can give them direction on what we would like to do if we want to participate or not participate. So this is a presentation just to try to reiterate a little bit of what the levy program is about and what benefit it could provide to the city. So as a way of introduction, the Ramsey County HRA was organized in May of 1993 by the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners. In 2022, the county levied $11.1 million through the HRA to preserve and increase the supply of affordable housing within the county. All communities in Ramsey County are required to participate in the levy, with the exception of St. Paul and North St. Paul, because both of these cities have been operating their own HRAs since 1972 or before 1971, sorry. Both cities have the option to opt in to the county. In 2022, St. Paul decided to opt in. They have an agreement where at least 50% of the funds that are levied are spent in St. Paul and programming specific to that city. The city of North St. Paul at that time in 2022 chose to opt out. Because we have new commissioners and we have new staff, we asked that the county come back and do a presentation to give us an understanding of what the levy is for and how it's beneficial. And so that happened on April 18th at the City Council workshop. And then following that meeting, staff has requested some additional information from the county to give us all a better understanding. So what programming will the city of North St. Paul be eligible if it were to participate? Ramsey County offers 3 key programs through the HRA levy. Those include affordable housing projects, the Critical Corridor Grant Program, and wealth generation programs. So I'm going to go through each of those. The HRA funded almost $8 million in affordable housing projects in 2022. You'll see that from the list, about half of those were focused in St. Paul, but Little Canada, Maplewood, White Bear, and Shoreview received $4.2 million for new construction of affordable projects. These are 2 of those. The Litmore and Little Canada and the Lochner and White Bear Lake are 2 of the HRA affordable housing projects. Litmore received $1.1 million, and the Lochner received $1 million. The Critical Corridor Grant Program offers assistance to qualifying public, private, and nonprofit organizations for place-based investments along major transportation, commercial, and cultural corridors. We do have quite a few areas within the city that are covered by those commercial corridors. The goals of that program are to boost connectivity between housing, jobs, retail, services, and transportation, create more compact and walkable environments, enhance pedestrian access and safety, and support vibrant business districts. So up to $50,000 was available for pre-development planning grants in 2022. I'm sorry, up to $50,000 is per project. In 2022, $100,000 was available for that grant type. Up to $50,000 per project is available for the Commercial Corridor Initiative out of $100,000. And that funding is used for business recruitment, establishing small business incubators, building facade improvements, technical assistance, doing district-wide marketing, branding, and promotion. And then finally, up to $500,000 is available for a project for the Development and Infrastructure Grant. Eligible projects can include extraordinary cost of housing, commercial, or mixed-use redevelopment projects, as well as public site infrastructure work. And the final program is the wealth generation piece, which they call First Home. It assists first-time and first-generation home buyers that are low to moderate income, helps them to purchase a new home. Eligible buyers may purchase a home of up to $372,000 and qualify for loans that can be used for down payment and closing costs. First-time home buyers with gross household income that is at or below the 80% of the American median income, area median income, can qualify for the program. First-generation home buyers with 4 or more household members must be at or below 100% AMI. So I put the statistics in the report and on the screen. Based on the American Community Survey data, families and individuals in North St. Paul could benefit from the program. And per the county's presentation on April 18th, numerous individuals have inquired at the county to see if they would be eligible, and unfortunately they were turned away because we're not part of the levy program. So in considering whether to participate in the program, you may ask, how was the $11.1 million spent? 7.7 approximately was spent on the affordable housing projects, 1.8 on the critical corridor grants, 435,000 on wealth generation programs, and then 1.1 million was spent on staff, professional services, and overhead. So what would it cost us? The median estimated value of a home in North St. Paul is $273,750. So that home value would result in an estimated increase of $42 for that house bill, for that tax bill. As of 2023, North St. Paul is estimated to contribute 1.8% to the county levy. So that equates about just under $200,000 that would be added to the HRA from North St. Paul. So does North St. Paul have some projects that would benefit from the HRA participation? As I mentioned earlier, there are likely individuals that would benefit from the wealth generation programs that reduce barriers to home buying. We also are qualifying, a lot of our areas in the city have low median income home value, lower than neighboring suburban communities. So North St. Paul would likely have redevelopment opportunity projects that would be eligible for grant funding through the Critical Corridor program. So at this time, Carrie Collins, the Community Development Director with the county, is present. She is available to answer any questions. I can try to answer any questions regarding this, but at this point, we'd like to open it up for your conversation and see if there's direction you'd like us to take on this. I believe the deadline for participation is July. Is that right? So if we were to take action, we'd have a resolution back to you at the next council meeting. So I'll open it up.
With our own now, how much are we bringing in for our HRA that we have?
I believe the levy is paused at the moment with our HRA. We are not presently taking.
What do we have for funds?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
I believe it's a little over $400,000 right now is what's in their budget, or their total budget.
So they have 400,000 right now in there. Why was it paused?
Pardon me?
Why was it paused? Is it,
For the sake of when we sold the 19th Avenue house, that we
Got nothing
made
to
significant money over it. So yeah, we felt that they didn't need the funding, and that's the way it was voted on last year as well.
or what was what do they want to see in ours? Is there amount? Is that why it was as much as how much they want in the account?
There wasn't a goal
Okay.
to have a certain amount, but it was enough to do what we were doing with our student-built houses to continue moving forward.
And we have enough to continue to move forward with our student-built houses and take care of what we've been doing?
We do.
Okay. So, any questions?
If we elect to go with the Ramsey County one, ours has to stop, correct?
I don't believe that is correct. We would continue to operate our own HRA.
Okay,
It's
and
an additional opportunity to have funding available through their programming.
then if it's because we have ours going, could we stop at any point in time?
Yes, this is a great question. So our HRA levy, the programming, is in addition to cities that also have an HRA or an EDA. Many cities, some cities in Ramsey County don't have an HRA, and so they rely heavily on our HRA. Some levy in addition to the HRA. Some take a look at reducing the municipal HRA to offset the county HRA. So every city does it differently. It's just a matter of this can be in addition to or in replace of, depending on the goals of the city. One thing that I do want to stress is, we hear a lot from economists right now talking about this kind of fourth wave associated with economic recovery post-COVID. And right now, you're probably hearing workforce. Workforce is the name of the game. And the one way to ensure that you have a stable and healthy workforce is to ensure stable and healthy housing. And that's where jobs are coming, and we're seeing that all over the county. So I would say a lot of the other suburban communities are getting really serious in terms of preserving and constructing new housing, both in terms of affordable single family, and also rental, to ensure that their pipeline for their businesses is strong. And so that's what we're hearing a lot from particularly our suburban community partners right now at this time, in terms of how they plan to use the Ramsey County HRA levy. I do also want to stress from a mechanics standpoint, every project that we fund in your community does need to be supported by the council. Ramsey County can't fund a project with HRA levy dollars in your community without municipal consent. So there is a partnership. We do look very comparably to our HUD programs to partner with the city on advancing the city goals when we use our county HRA dollars. So, thanks.
What about ending? Let's say in 3 years, it's not a good fit.
Yep, absolutely. This is a great question. Like the city of St. Paul, they asked this question as well. They said, if we're finding that we don't have a good or strong return on investment, can we opt out? And the answer is yes. Comparably, you would pass a resolution saying we no longer are going to be included in the Ramsey County HRA. You would do so by a similar time frame, July, which tells our folks in property tax area to not include you within the area of operation in the taxable year moving forward. So you do have an opt-in, opt-out option available to you.
We do, because we fall with before 1971. The other ones have no choice.
Correct.
Thank you for your presentation, Brandy, and thank you for being here to answer questions. In regards to some of the submissions you received, what are some of the factors the HRA considers when allocating a project or approving one?
That's a great question. Thank you, council member. The factors we includes a range of affordability. So we look at that where there's plenty of projects happening right now at what we call market rate, which is kind of 80 to 115% of AMI. So the HRA levy wouldn't be a good fit. Statutorily, we are required to use HRA levy funds for low to moderate income housing. In terms of our wealth generation programs, I would say that's where we have heard quite a bit of interest coming out of North St. Paul residents to get access to those down payment assistance grants. Those are on a first come, first serve. So we had kind of an overwhelming amount of interest right now. So our down payment assistance staff are kind of working through the queue. So that's geography is all over the county. But in terms of multifamily housing, we're looking at preservation of existing affordable housing. So if you have townhomes or multifamily buildings where you're starting to see disrepair and it's starting to become quasi-blighted, where you're like, wow, that's an eyesore in our community, that's where our funds have really been able to help to kind of preserve that affordability. We also look at the range. So if you have 5 units at 60% AMI and versus another project that comes in where you've got a sprinkling of 50 or 60, a range, then that probably is going to score a little bit better. But I do want to stress, which we committed to all of the suburban communities, regardless of having a choice or not. Geographic distribution of these dollars is critical to us. We want to see preservation and new construction across all of Ramsey County, where you saw the Shoreview project, Mounds View receive funds, Little Canada, New Brighton. We want to see investments in all of the county, and we made that commitment to every community within Ramsey County. St. Paul, specified that caveat associated with 50% returning back because they are 50% of the tax base. So they did want to see a return on their investment as well. So as the projects come in, we're always balancing between suburban Ramsey County and St. Paul And so that's factored into decision-making.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
No, I think I'm ready for discussion.
Okay. Open to discussion?
Yeah, last time we were presented on the previous council, in regards to this, and, there was a lot of discussion about, what would happen to our student bill, things like that, and it's nice to hear that that doesn't have to go away. So I'm just kind of wondering, aside from the student-built housing, what are the other goals of our HRA at this point in time? And of course, that would probably be a little bit more appropriate for the HRA, but I think that's important to consider when we're bringing in funds. Is it to build more affordable housing, or is it our corridor, which is our downtown? Can we get a higher dollar amount than what we're getting now? So I'm just kind of thinking in some of those terms. So open to hearing what others have to think.
I have a question about the math. Is the tax base of St. Paul above or below that 50% mark of all in Ramsey County?
I think what you're asking is if St. Paul is 50%, where do we fall within the 100%?
No, St. Paul compared to all the others. If you added up all the others, not St. Paul, or if all the others add up to 60%, and St. Paul adds up to 40% of everyone contributing to this levy.
Thank you, that's a great question. It's almost an even split between suburban Ramsey County and the city of St. Paul. So it's like, it depends on the year, but it's like 49.8% St. Paul, and then the rest of the suburban communities make up the other 50%. And so it's going to be different, based off, economic changes every year, but it's really close to 50-50. So as we went around and held various summits with city staff and city managers, they said, we understand that split, but can you make sure then that 50% of the HRA levy goes to suburban Ramsey County? And we said yes. So in terms of North St. Paul's contribution, as Brandy mentioned, it's 1.8% into the HRA levy, which is why I would say it's really wonderful for communities like North St. Paul and Gem Lake and Little Canada to contribute in this way, because chances are very likely that your grant size on an annual basis will exceed what you put in. So that's been a huge selling point for some of the smaller communities in Ramsey County, knowing that whether it's downtown North St. Paul on the main street with the critical corridor grants, the wealth generation opportunities, or the preservation options for multifamily housing, chances are very likely that your grant size is going to exceed $198,000 on an annual basis. That's assuming, of course, we have projects ready to go into the pipeline, working with staff to make sure that they get into the pipeline for consideration. Thanks.
Do you mind if I ask her a question?
Oh, go for it.
I was wondering if you could describe, so we've got the affordable housing, with the critical corridors, there was 3 types of grants, the planning and then the projects. There was a third that was related to business retention and development. Can you talk about some of the communities that have benefited from that and how the program works from a staff-to-staff perspective?
Thank you, Brandy. That's a great question. So pre-planning, and then we've got kind of pre-development fund, and that's to ready a site for development. Some of those early costs are sometimes extraordinary, so we help to intervene there. There is development and infrastructure, but there is a program that's unique and that's specific to suburban Ramsey County. So St. Paul isn't eligible for those funds, and that's the Commercial Corridor Initiative. And the reason why that's built is because we know that St. Paul will always have a pipeline of multifamily projects, and that will probably be the bulk of their share of the HRA levy. But whether it's, North St. Paul or some of these other communities, the landscape is a little bit different, and you may not always have a 200-unit multifamily project, and therefore, for suburban Ramsey County, we've got this Commercial Corridor Initiative because we did a landscape view survey of all of Ramsey County, and every community in Ramsey County, regardless of the landscape, does have a commercial corridor that's in need of reinvestment. And just general investment to keep those kind of employment centers strong. So the commercial corridor initiative can be kind of one of two things. It can be marketing for the business community to ensure that you're driving attraction, driving employment to keep the business as a business retention and expansion play. We've seen that up and down Lexington Avenue as they've undergone construction. They did a big website and kind of marketing promotion to help keep those businesses strong. It can also be facade improvements for some of the kind of aging retail strip centers that's in need of signage improvements or facade improvements to keep it from getting blighted. And we've partnered with communities on some of the kind of building improvement side of things as well. So there's a lot of flexibility written into that project or into that kind of offering, but that's one program that is unique to suburban Ramsey County that could really benefit, North St. Paul could benefit from.
Any questions, Cassie?
No, I mean, that piece is appealing. Randy, doing the math, you had broke it down, was it $42 a month for the tax levy?
No, that's the tax bill for a house that was the median
Thank you.
house value in the city.
Appreciate it.
And forgive me, this is kind of a newbie question because I don't know this. On an issue like this, personally, I think I'm in favor of it. But what is the history on issues like this where we vote as a council or we vote to put it on the next election to see what the general community wants?
Can we do that?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I'm a newbie.
I mean, what would be the, I'm looking for the word, I lost my train of thought. If we were to initiate this, what would the tax levy look like to an average homeowner? I mean, how much is that going to increase our taxes?
Well, that's the $42 amount, so
Well, it's the 42, so yeah, that's what I was trying to
that's your
generalize
tax bill
before.
increase. If you have the average house,
Okay, now I'm picking it up, because that's what I was trying to generalize before and figure out, okay, was that the $42? When you break it down, it's technically $1.40 a day, roughly. Okay,
yep, that's for your, on your annual tax bill. It'll
Thank you.
that much. You're welcome.
That's exactly what I was looking for.
That's not the right number. It's 42 for a whole year, isn't it? 42 for the whole year.
Oh, so 42.
Dollars for
Entire
your,
year.
Oh, okay, okay. I wasn't a math major, guys. But regardless, if I broke it down, it was still $1.40 a day, so it looked great, but it's even less, obviously, so.
well, we've had ours. Is there, I know we share with the student home build. Is that all the HRA is for right now, as far as where we go? Okay.
And that's dedicated to the student housing where this levy would be dedicated to improvements, business corridor improvements, current structural, larger housing improvements, more money, down payments, correct, to individuals that can't afford a full down payment. All right.
So the HRA, I believe got rid of that just before my time, I think, despite that being in our housing, or the housing second goal of our comp plan. So I think that is, kind of picked up in other areas for county. However, I think it adds to our own risk, financial risks, or it also adds to the fact that we don't have a lot of staff dedicated to running the HRA. We have limited capacity. Yeah.
Commissioner Reinhardt would like to address the council, if that's okay.
Hello.
Victoria Reinhardt, Ramsey County Commissioner. North St. Paul is part of my district. And I just, I know that the last time that the time before, when you were looking at coming in, and a lot of the questions really then were about affordable housing and thinking that somehow the county was going to come in and make something happen in your community. And so I just want to, and I know most of you weren't there, you were there at the time, and as Carrie stated, this is something that is really brought forward by the city. It's what do you want? We cannot and would not come in and say you need to do this or you need to do that. I'm hoping that obviously that you will come in, because I believe that you will benefit, your community will benefit from it more than what's put in. And if you don't, next year you could opt out. But whatever you do, I'm here because I think I really do think it's a benefit to your city. If I didn't, I wouldn't be standing here telling you that. So it's not a lot of money, that 198,000 when you look at 11 million that we're bringing in the HRA. But there are a lot of projects in the city of St. Paul and not as many in the suburbs, but they're getting to be more and more, and I think it'll be more competitive, and I'd like you to be part of that if you could. And you can certainly ask me any questions you want, because whatever you do, I'm going to support you. So that's really all it comes down to.
Any questions?
I appreciate your perspective on the staffing piece and the amount of workload that would be on somebody. So that's something definitely that needs to be played in consideration.
I mean, we still have community development projects, just to clarify, but there's not a whole lot of opportunity to have discussion amongst the HRA, getting all that together and the operations of that. So I think I would say in my experience, we struggle to find, an agreed upon direction outside of the comp plan and outside of the student build. I think everyone's mostly on that page, but in terms of other things we can do with HRA, we haven't really had a whole lot of opportunity to have that discussion, and a lot of it has been limited capacity for all sorts of reasons, but that's something for us to consider. If we have a community development project, that's one thing we can focus on, and our HRA can just continue running the student built, but we'll have a larger sum of money to probably work with just for community development.
What's our,
Vote your opinion on whether you want to move forward with it or not.
so we vote tonight and then just goes in as a consent? Is that how that?
I would suggest that it seems like you're still digesting what this means to us. We can bring it forward as an action item, not on consent at the next meeting, and at that point, we could have a little bit more of a thoughtful reaction.
Yeah, I prefer doing that myself.
We'd have a full council then as well.
Yep.
Tim being gone.
Yeah, there's good things and there's things that are, we keep adding monthly charges, no matter what value it is, how much it is, it's tough, especially the way things are going up and all the calls I get for everything else as far as roads and what's happening with all these other things. So we got a lot. So it'd be good just to be able to digest it and then do that.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree that it is a tough pill to swallow to add yet another layer of tax burden onto the citizens of North St. Paul. I do see the benefit, though, if this group does decide that it wants to move forward. I know that as the the planner for the city, there are some critical corridor grant opportunities that we've missed out on. And I've had at least one phone call from a person who was interested in the wealth generation program, and we were not able to accommodate her. I'm also interested in learning more about that commercial piece that we could use I forget what it was called again, the corridor, critical corridor initiative. I think that we have opportunities for facade improvements specifically. I know that we've got some owners in the downtown that have expressed interest in the EDA, finding a way to assist them with that. So I agree, there's a lot of information to think about over the next couple of weeks, and if you have questions that arise in the meantime, please contact me, and I can contact the county, and we can get more information to help you with the decision.
And how much we have to develop too, as far as land here, that type of thing. So we have maybe one lot that's still available, that's good size.
We have a couple lots, and I believe that anything that you are gonna find that will be a redevelopment site will have some potential for some site contamination, and I believe the Critical Corridor Project, or pre-planning grant, and other, actually, Environmental Resource Fund, that's not part of this though, is it? There's a lot of opportunities for funding through the county, and the HRA is just one avenue that we could be part of.
Okay. Well, good. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for the information. It definitely helps us as we move forward in the new, like we say, young council, trying to figure everything out. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda is the Silver Lake Association. What?
Oh, that's the meeting, isn't it?
Did I miss?
They're in the council meeting.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
Why is
That's
it
what you
in
had,
there?
I thought.
Yeah, that's.
Never mind. Sorry.
All right, should we dismiss? I don't think there's anything else. Anybody have anything?
Nothing further.
All right, go ahead.
I just want to, want us to think about that return on investment. I think that is something that could be really huge for us. I'm wondering if that could have been an opportunity to support even some of our current developments that, are trying to get off the ground as well. Could that have been something we have used for that, that HRA funding? So I just wanted us to really think about that as we continue to redevelop the downtown, because we have a redevelopment master plan, and it's been the goal of the city for a very long time to get this downtown continuing to move it forward, so.
And that's what intrigued me about the business corridor piece of the HRA. But I am also, on my end, I operate as a process thinker, so I'm processing through all of that information, but I agree that upon next meeting, it would be helpful for all of us to ask questions. Randy, I plan on scheduling an appointment with you just to discuss this a little bit further as well.
And do you want to continue with the current HRA program that we have along with that? So yeah, there's lots more information to come.
Yeah, part of that, though, is with our HRA going forward, the way we're doing it now, is how long is he gonna do it? And is there gonna be somebody replacing this guy when he retires?
That's the unknown.
Well, it sounds to me like we got 2 lots, and after that, he's thinking about pulling the plug. And then where do we go from there?
Which would be what, 2 more years?
So we got this house
3
coming
years.
up, and then next, I don't know if it's after next house, he was,
To the next one.
he was thinking about retiring. So, does the school continue the program? Does he have a person that, under his wing that he's doing anything with yet?
Not that I've heard yet, no.
Presented, it didn't sound like that.
So that's a concern, because then all of a sudden we don't have anything then. That we've been focused, right now we're focused on one thing, which is the student build.
Yep.
So that's part of the equation that we all need to continue to think about.
Indeed.
Work. Sound good? All right. Well, thank you. We'll dismiss, or adjourn, sorry, at the vote, motion to adjourn. Do we have to do a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Your Honor.
Councilmember Wong? Second. Councilmember Norby? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
There we go.
Little break in the action, 6:30. You have a question? You're gonna be up on the county. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Rise. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Cole is absent. Councilmember Schwer.
Here.
Councilmember Wong.
Here.
Councilmember Nordby.
Here.
Mayor Monge.
Sorry, I got my stool ready. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
So move, Your Honor.
So move, Councilmember Schwer.
Second.
Second, Councilmember Wong. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, first up, presentation.
Please, presentation tonight is from the Silver Lake Improvement Association. We have the President Paul Nichols here to discuss. Welcome, Paul.
Welcome.
Hello, Mayor and council members and others. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Hey, thanks for coming.
Let's see here. I'm going to try to share the screen.
Oops.
Oh, there we go. All right. Yeah, thanks for having me here today. I'm Paul Nickel. I'm the president of our Silver Lake Improvement Association. And I'm here tonight to cover a few things. First, to recognize the city of North St. Paul for the great partnership that we've had with our Silver Lake Improvement Association over the last several years. Secondly, just to give an update on our main topic is going to be around the aquatic invasive species that we've seen, a significant outbreak of a hybrid milfoil, kind of an update on that, and then our plans. And then lastly, get the support from you guys, and also hopefully we can get a monetary contribution from City of North St. Paul. So we have this, what we call the invasive hybrid milfoil. It's a combination of northern and Eurasian water milfoil. And this, I have a slide deck here. I have a couple of my colleagues here as well. John Muller, he's on the board of SLIA. And then Ron Youngbauer, he's also a member of SLIA and a resident on the lake. Right. Okay, so SLIA was formed in 2005, and I've been a part of it since around 2009 when I moved to the area. And I actually grew up not too far from the lake, so kind of great to be back here. And so I've been involved with this for several years, and I'm happy to say that we've made a really nice improvement in the quality of the lake. We've brought back a lot of the native plants, and the water clarity has gotten a lot better over the last 5 to 10 years. Some years it gets a little bit worse and some years better, but overall our trajectory is good when it comes to the native plants and the clarity of the lake. So over the last several years, what we've been able to do is a little bit of a limited treatment of those invasive weeds, the weeds that we don't want to have around. We can only treat up to 10% of the lake by rule, by law. And that costs around $3,000 annually to do that. And the city of North St. Paul has partnered with us for many years on paying approximately $1,000 per year of that $3,000, which has been a huge help. The other funding has come from either the grants that we've received or from our association, our dues and pledges and donations from the members. What we're planning to do here is a one-time treatment, taking a different strategy because this hybrid milfoil has been extremely aggressive. I don't know if you guys have seen the lake this year already. Early in June here, it looks pretty rough. It's very weedy. This hybrid milfoil has really started to grow already this year. It's quite a bit worse than last year at this time. So we had actually plans already to do this full lake treatment last year, but this even more reason to do it this year with what we're seeing. So we think this full lake treatment will last us about 3 years, whereas typically these 10% treatments, they maybe last a year, and then the next year we kind of have the same issue. So they're effective for kind of that summer, that fall, but then the next year we see that build back up again. We think this will last maybe 2 to 3 years to keep that full lake weed free for the invasive species. I'm going to skip some of this, but why do we need a full lake treatment? Really, because this milfoil is very aggressive. The 10% is just not an effective treatment, and we want to use our funds for something that's a lot more effective, which will be this fluoridone treatment for the control of this AIS. The one downside, of course, is the expense. It's going to cost up to around $20,000, and what we're doing is we're trying to raise that money through multiple means. One is we have a $1,500 grant from the DNR. Two, we've already gotten about $3,000 from SLAA membership dues and contributions, and then we're doing a lot of additional sponsorships and fundraising. So just want to go off the list. We have North St. Paul businesses. Ron pitched this to the North St. Paul businesses, and we got a lot of excitement from them. So far, we haven't received, I don't think, any money yet, but we have a lot of excitement. We're planning to go door to door to all the lakeshore owners. Of course, they have a big stake in this as well, right? We've had wine tasting events in the past, and we're going to have that again this year. Maybe we'll add one of those events. On Friday nights for the city of North St. Paul, we have the history cruisers, and also one of our board members has a concession stand there, and we're going to be posting information there to try to get additional funding. We have the Max Give Back event. I'll be passing one of those to each of you guys. That'll be on June 26th, I believe.
Right.
And they're going to donate 30% of all food and beverage sales to this cause, which is awesome. My request is to receive $5,000 from the city of North St. Paul. And then I'm also going to go to the city of Maplewood and city of Oakdale and ask for, they don't have as much, property, and they don't, own as much of the lake, for lack of better terminology. So I'm going to ask them for $2,500 each from both Maplewood and Oakdale. Probably plan to do that here later in June or into July. And then this is just kind of an additional thing that we're trying to do just to get some, notoriety for the small businesses, especially that are willing to do the sponsorship, to try to help their businesses as well. And one other thing I was going to pull up here. Let me see if I can. This is a little bit difficult to read, but how do I do this? Maybe I'll skip that because I don't see that coming up. But we have a flyer as well. I sent that to you guys, a flyer that kind of has all of this information on one slide, and a little bit of history and background in our plans. So yeah, that's what I had for today. And any questions from you guys?
Ron.
If I could add a couple of things, sir.
Come on up.
Yeah, please approach.
Hi, I'm Ron Youngbauer. I'm Lake resident here in town, been here about 5 years. Thank you for your time tonight. So it's really a grassroots operation that we have going here. You can see the QR code there on the little flyer. And what that's all about is one of the young folks in the neighborhood said, hey, I'm not quite that young, but he said, you know, when people are down at the auto show event, he said, you know, if I'm walking, he said, at my age, if I'm walking along and I'm getting a Pronto Pup and a beer type of thing, I see something like that, I go, oh, that's a great cause, flip you $10. So we're gonna work the community that way. That's one aspect. Another is, when I did speak to the business association, they asked me to come back and brief them on our progress each month. And so, as Paul says, we don't have anything in our hand today. I had 2 different businesses tell me, come back and see me, I'll get you $1,000 from 2 different business owners. So we got that in our pocket. We have one of the ladies along the lake knows somebody from I haven't been here that long to know, but there was an organization that raised money for lifeguards for a while along at the beach. And they evidently aren't doing that anymore, and it's Green something. I apologize for not knowing the full name, but,
Laura Greenlee,
oh, okay,
Laura Greenlee Carb.
okay. And
I'm
so
assuming that's what.
I believe so. And
Yes.
so they had $1,800 in their kitty, and they pledged that they're gonna send that on over to us, because they're about done with what their mission was.
Oh, that
So, I guess what we're here to say is, we are building momentum, we are building steam. Whatever you guys, as a city, whatever we can do as a city would be awesome to help us. We really feel we're gonna get there. I've also contacted both the state reps, Lilly and Fisher. I've contacted State Senator Zhang, and gonna stay on them and see if there's anything they can do to get the DNR to maybe twist, you know. I asked Alexa the other night, Alexa, how much money does the state DNR have in their budget? A staggering $1.1 billion. So we've sent them letters and said, hey, if there's anything more you guys can do. And again, the treatment is gonna take place in the fall of 2023 and in the spring of 2024.
So there's two rounds of treatments.
Yes,
So it's
that's what we get
20,000
that for
straight.
that 20,000, correct.
Okay.
And
And then on your guys' that 10%, that $3,000, is that, do you circle around the lake and then just keep going with that 10%
So typically
coverage?
what happens is the contractor goes out with our representative Joyce, along with the DNR, and they go around the lake and check for the hot spots, the trouble spots.
Okay.
And they identify, these are the spots we're gonna treat. The DNR is the one that says it's 10%, period, end of story. The DNR recognizes that we have a big problem on our hands here. And they recognize that if we don't do something about this, we could darn near walk across the bay next year on this stuff. It's thick, it's nasty, it's coming fast. From that perspective, we really need to get after this. So the DNR gave us this variance, this 1-year waiver to get this done. The DNR has all kinds of backup information. I'm sure Paul has it. We won't bore you with it tonight, but if anybody was really interested, we could give you that. It shows the lakes in the metro area that have had this, that this treatment takes it from 60, 70% coverage down to 0 to 1
Fantastic.
by doing this fall and spring program. So that's why we're following that. Bar Engineering happens to be involved, along with the contractor, along with the DNR. So there's a lot of effort and energy that's gone into this. There's a lot of expertise on our side. So we really want to save the jewel in North, what we call, we coined it the jewel in North St. Paul. And really, when you look at all your neighbors and constituents and friends that are out there on that lake, we can't afford to let that thing go. So, other questions, other thoughts from anyone?
I have a quick question for you. Is the milfoil what you're fighting every year for the most part? That coming back, or is there other invasive
Eurasian
species?
milfoil has, now John's an expert, because he's been here 68 years on the lake.
The two most invasive plants that we have are the Eurasian milfoil and curly leaf pondweed.
Gotcha.
Now, we're treating those, and like Ron says, every year that we survey the lake and hit hotspots. But with this hybrid, it's so invasive and so spreads so quickly. It's a whole different animal. It covers the lake. And this Floridone is a relatively new treatment for it. They've done it in a couple of other lakes. And with the success Ron says, I mean, from almost a total coverage down to 0 to 1%. After a couple of years even, it's been at 0. And I don't think they have any really long-term results of how good it is, but they know that, one of the lakes after 2 years, it was still at 0. So
There's
very effective.
There's 30-some homes on the lake, and in addition, so what that is what we've been speaking to tonight is offshore treatment, which is what our group SLIA is involved in. That's the middle of the lake, if you will. Each individual homeowner has the option or ability to treat 50 wide by 50 deep in front of your spot for these different things, which many of us already do at our own expense through the contractor. I'd tell you that I spent $980 last year out of my pocket, and I intend to pledge half of that to this program this year because we're still treating for that and other things in front of our homes right now.
Sure.
So we're coming to you saying we've got skin in the game, every one of us, many of us, and we're gonna get out and knock on doors. I suggest we get on a pontoon and go out and walk up to everybody's dock and hand them a flyer and see what they'll do. So, because I think there's some folks even on the lake that kind of poo-poo this, and they're not gonna, I mean, if any of you own that property, you don't wanna see your property go, like, the value, take a big dive.
We don't own the property, but I'll tell you what, my kids like to swim there.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly, exactly, thank you. So,
And people like to kayak. They
yes.
normally go from the south end of the lake, and that's
it's getting so thick, you get stuck
Okay.
in your kayak trying to kayak, or if you're standing up doing the water board.
Sure, the paddleboarding.
Yeah, the paddle boarding.
Okay.
It's rough. I tell you, if I go putt around on my pontoon for 10 minutes, I've got to drop it into reverse 3 times to knock that stuff off so I can keep going. It's really getting rough, so. We've probably taken more time than we should have, but
Thank you. That's helpful.
we wanted to make sure we answered any of your thoughts and questions, so.
Thank you.
Paul, are we all good?
Maybe just a couple more notes here. I don't remember if that was in the presentation. I should have not skipped over it, but
I do too.
this, one of the things that might be coming to mind is the safety of this, Floridone. And I don't think I have it in this presentation, but this has been proven to be, very safe for, animals, wildlife, people to swim and to be around. It's going to be in the lake at such a low dosage that it will have no effect at all on anything, no negative impacts. And let's see, I think there was one other thing, but, I wanted to pass out, make sure that you guys all have the,
Next.
can I come up to the-
Oh, you go right ahead. We're going to ask questions, so Councilmember Wong has one?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, and excuse me if I missed this, but what is the source of this year's, particularly this year's, substantial growth of milfoil?
You want to stand up at the, I just want
so
to
we
make
can
sure.
hear you.
People at home can't hear.
It's showing up in the lake just in the last couple of years. And how it got in the lake, probably a boat from some other lake or something. But it's new to this lake, and the treatments for other milfoil don't work on this, so it needs this
And
special.
it's been spreading like wildfire over the last 2 years.
Over the last 2 years, it has really spread.
Is it choking out the the regulars? Oh, what do you call that? The
Yes,
Just the native-
native, thank you, because they have native plants. Okay.
Not to mention, this is at the top of the chain, okay? So
Oh,
Silver Lake, we're also involved with the watershed district. And the watershed district is all the bodies of water that run from here down to the St. Croix River. So our neighbors over at DeMontreville, at Long Lake, Lake
Olson,
Jane,
Jane.
Olson, what's going on here is flowing there.
And they've been treated, though.
DeMontreville is just now treating.
Is now treated, okay,
I don't know about the others yet.
okay.
But so what's happening here is gonna certainly knock on their door, whether a boat brings it in or not. We'd also like to say that we'd like to figure, there's already a sign over at the boat landing. We'd like to update that signage, make it better, make it a current, probably put something along the beach, over in the area where people take their kayaks and drop in. And really educate everyone about this. We're gonna.
Dorothy Park, is where they keep Dorothy Park, where they keep the.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. We're gonna go and put up flyers at any business on Main Street that's gonna let us, and we're gonna keep this going. I think there was talk of putting together one of those, like barometers or thermometers like you see for United Way on the website, and possibly have one here at City Hall to update the community on what we're doing. So we really wanna get the community involved in this. It's not a problem to just lake owners, it's a problem for the community. And hopefully we can all solve it together.
Great. Yes, I appreciate, I've been to some of the meetings, and the energy you guys are bringing to this project is great. And it's not trying to, kill weeds to have a, a pool type of thing. We're trying to keep the native, which is your filter, which is your built-in filter, to keep the lakes clean. And if we can get rid of that, we have, like you said, maybe 3 years. So we've been doing $1,000 for the last, every year. So that would be, a sustainable plus going forward with it. So I really want to thank everybody, because everybody uses that lake. You go down there Memorial Weekend, people swimming, and it's definitely an asset to our community for everybody. So thank you all for doing this. It's really appreciate it.
Do you have a question?
You? Okay, make sure. How are you over there, bud? Good. All right, we good? All right, what do you want to do? Yep. So 4 resolution, is there a amount?
Yeah, he said 5.
5 is good?
5,000.
Okay. Can I have a motion for a resolution for $5,000 for the Silver Lake Fund?
So moved, Your Honor.
So move, Councilmember Swears. Second?
Second.
Councilmember Wong. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. very
Appreciate it,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate everything you're doing. All right. Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Consent agenda. That's next.
All right, that's me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Consent agenda. First up, May 16th, 2023 workshop minutes. May 16th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. General claims of $1,933,216. HRA claims of $15,506.44. EDA claims of $891.05. Approved tobacco licenses. Liquor license renewals for 2024. Application request for Newman's Bar and Grill for temporary extension of their on-sale liquor license to include a portion of their paved parking area located at 2531 7th Avenue East on Saturday, September 16th, 2023. New license approval on sale and Sunday liquor license for South Eats Asian Cuisine located at 2086 11th Avenue East. New license approval on sale Sunday liquor license on sale wine license for Everett Ventures and Company, DBA The Den, is located at 2544 7th Avenue East. Building permit report for April of 2023. Resolution accepting donations. Special event permit for the Sentinel, June 2nd to August 25th. Special event permit for Trenton Hawthorne Kick Hunger for North St. Paul Food Shelf, September 24th, 2023. And resolution approving firefighter declaration on dual position.
Anybody want to pull anything out of these?
May I pull H and pull J, and O.
H and O. Okay,
And some of them are just comments or questions about process.
okay, sounds good. So that's gonna be moved to our discussion then, correct?
Please,
And we vote with those three out of it to accept the rest?
please.
Okay, hey, I'm getting the hang of this. All right.
Move to accept the amended agenda?
Oh, I like it, yeah.
So moved?
I'll move, Councilmember Schwiers.
Second.
Second, Councilmember Wong, all those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. All right. Now, the next is public hearing. If we, nope, I miss it. Oh, we're gonna move on to those three right away? Open, that's what I meant, I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say. It went up. Open to the public, 3 minutes, please, for content. We have David Nelson. Welcome, good to see you again.
Yeah, it's probably going to take longer than 3 minutes, but I've been a master naturalist for 17 or 18 years. I've been working at Southwood 18 or 19 years. I was on the Park Commission, probably on the 19th year for about 5 years, and they signed everybody a park. I got Southwood. Our daughter's federal wildlife biologist. She come through, she says, Dad, you gotta remove this, this, and this is all invasive. So that's what we started with. The first thing we started with, my wife and I, we paid for the information center right on Holloway there. That was out of our pocket. And then we started cleaning out the garlic mustard, the buckthorn, and Mike Keene, he's been down there probably 13 or 14 times helping us. We had giant Japanese knotweed. That's what it's called, but the nickname everybody calls it bamboo, because kids were cutting it off and throwing them like spears. We cut that off, and then another gentleman come in and help treat it, and that, which by accident we found out how to treat it with 4 other master naturalists down there working. We just found it by accident. The lady fell and knocked some plants over, so rather than cut it, the guy just treated where it split, like bamboo, when you split it, it breaks out. Well, that was killing it. And we've been working on, when I was younger, I could put in 9 hours, pulling buckthorn, hauling it out. At first, we got the people around the area to come and help volunteer. That was great. Everybody was down there pulling buckthorn. At first, they complained we're pulling buckthorn. After we got it cleaned out, that's the greatest thing. We can see the animals or the geese and everything in the water area. We can see across. And when Keith Satowski was here, we had the urban forester from the DNR come out, and he walked the whole 28 acres with us. And he says, this is a dying forest. It needs to be planted now, and thanks to the city, and that we put 25 plants in. I watered them 3 years in a row. Each week got 5 gallons of water. And that I hauled it around, then I sold my tractor, so I had no way of watering them anymore. But now the trees are dying. They're falling in the pond. They are falling here and there. They're all over. They're landing on the trees that that the city planted. And we're trying to build it back up to what Henry Castle saw when he pulled into town. He rode into town on a horse. He had to stand up on the stirrups in order to survey the land before he bought this whole area before it became North St. Paul.
Yep.
And
What would you like the city,
pardon?
what would you like to the city?
Okay, the trees that are down, I'm looking at a fire hazard. You can have it just like in Canada, and you got houses right next door. You want the fire to start there and go to the houses, there's dead trees all over and branches. The stuff needs to be cleaned out. I can't, my wife and I go down there, we pull invasive plants. I can only work an hour a day now. I can't work 9 or 10-hour days.
So we can we get the Public Works to take a look and see where we're at on that? Be able to remove, there's a lot of it from the snow, because I know we lost a lot of the trees because of that.
Yeah, well, a lot of them are dead, and they're leaning in the water, and it's a fire hazard.
Okay, well, we'll get them out there,
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
I mean,
Well, appreciate everything you've done over the years for there, for
yeah,
sure.
there's,
And I know it's hard to do now as you get a little older, so we
yeah,
appreciate it.
77, I
Yep.
can't work like I used to.
Well, we'll get on it and we'll take a look and, for that. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, and, well, just one other thing.
Sure.
The turtle signs, I went to the DNR, they donated the turtle signs to start with. The agreement was, when they come here to the meeting, that we were supposed to take them down in the fall and put them up in the spring. When the people see them all winter long, it's nothing new. If you
Yeah.
take them down and put them up in the spring, oh, there's a new sign. I rescued a turtle today, is the size of a quarter, that was out in the middle of Holloway. And we had other turtles that were run over. I took this one and put it by the water because it was just baking in the sun.
Are they up right now, the turtle signs?
Yeah, they're up now, but
Oh, take them down in the fall?
they need to be taken
Okay.
down in the fall.
All right, we'll have note of that too.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming up, appreciate it. Mr. Small?
John Schmall, 2750 Chisholm Avenue. Just a note on Saturday's meeting of the PC, Planning Commission. You put Brandy in a heck of a position of trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, you know, when you have no facilities, no mics, no nothing. It was down to when you wanted to make a comment on the public hearing, it was speak to the computer.
Yeah.
I just have never experienced anything like that. Please give people who have to run these meetings some backing and have individuals on call or something to run mics, to run what's supposed to be done when you have a meeting. It was terrible.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right. Closing the public meeting? Or public, yeah. Hearing now, public hearings?
No public hearings tonight?
Oh, that's right. Business action items and recommendations?
Thank you, Your Honor. First up is consideration of a resolution to approve the flood resiliency plan. And we're going to turn that over to
We have
Randy.
Rebecca Haug from WSB has prepared the report.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I am trying to share my screen here. I might need some of Brandy's expertise to help me on this. There we go. All right, sorry about that. I was at the last workshop meeting and went over this, so I will not go as deep as I did last time, but do more of a summary of what this is. As you recall, the city of North St. Paul received grant funding from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency to study communities within the city that meet the vulnerable population criteria that's identified by the Census Bureau. And it was to develop a climate resiliency and vulnerable population projection and flood prevention and mitigation strategies report. And we have changed that term to be a flood resiliency plan to make it much easier. But it was to provide a plan and framework for the city to use to go forward with determining projects to help with flooding throughout the community and to just get better information. So this is a little bit of the background. I won't bore you with all of this. You can see this and we've talked about it. what and why do we plan for floods so that we can be prepared. This is the main reason for doing this plan. Why flooding is important. We want to make sure infrastructure, properties, people are safe within our community and manage the stress, be prepared for when flooding comes to the community. So how do you plan? We looked at the land use planning maps, we looked at storm sewer maps, studied everything, modeled everything, projected what areas would be impacted by flooding. As I said at the workshop, we worked very closely with Ramsey Washington Watershed District. They were a great partner with us as we went through this. Again, this helps to minimize damages in the future from flooding, having this work done. We also went over what homeowners can do to help with flooding. Here's a list of some of the things that Ramsey Washington Watershed District puts out to the communities. They also have grants for people to do projects on their property, as well as a lot of programs and things that can be done. The plan itself, we did a deep dive into the city's demographics, which is how we determined where the focus areas are, which are highlighted in this map by these yellow dots. Those areas are what were shown as being high and susceptible to flooding when the city experiences flood events. There was a lot of outreach as part of this. We had a website, it's still up. The survey is down, but people were able to complete a survey. We had an open house in this room. We had about 13 residents show up. We mailed out about 100 postcards to try and create awareness. I also gave a presentation at the Business Chamber event to try and, again, create some awareness behind this and get some support. So again, here's a summary of the open house. Homeowners did put red dots where they lived. A lot of them are in different parts of the city than where the focus area is. So that's something to address in the future as we're going through studying and assessing the needs within the community. So the report has long-term and short-term initiatives and projects that can be done, which are listed here and are in the report. The other great benefit of having this now is the city has a much more up-to-date stormwater model than it did. And so that will be very beneficial as the city looks forward with CIP and doing improvements, as well as having this plan sets the city up for additional grant funding, especially if we partner, if the city partners with the watershed district. It will weigh, you'll get a lot more points having this work already done to be eligible for grant funds. Next steps is this evening for the council to approve a resolution, and that this will then get submitted to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency for their final report. They may have comments, recommendations back, but this was going to be a great resource for the city to have. And with that, I'm open to answering any questions you may have.
Anyone questions?
Typically, how long do these reports last for? Is this a 10-year report? Is this?
A lot of times I would look at these as 10-year reports, especially with the changes in our precipitation patterns that we're experiencing. The other thing with the watershed district is they're constantly updating their model. So I would recommend that the city follow along and update its model now that you have an updated one. But then the plan, as you work through these short and long-term goals, you'll need to reestablish new goals for going forward.
Any more questions? All right. Move on to resolution then. Prove it.
Please.
Yep. So anybody gonna?
So moved, Your Honor.
So move, Councilmember Wong.
Second.
Second, Councilmember Norby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work.
Thank you. So next up is the consideration of a resolution to approve the PUD amendment to the Lilly redevelopment project. And our Community Development Director, Brandy Howe, will address that.
Hallelujah. Okay. This presentation addresses the next two agenda items, the planned unit development amendment and the comprehensive plan amendment. So as you know, Jim Laval of TJL Development received PUD approval in October of 2022 to redevelop a 3/4 acre site at the corner of Helen Street and 7th Avenue. Back last fall, the project was approved as a mixed-use building with 75 market-rate apartments, 7 live-work units, and 1,575 square feet of commercial area. That development team has been working over the past 9 months to secure funding for the project, but unfortunately, high interest rates and high construction costs have caused the developer to have to adjust the design to make it a financially feasible project. So the modified project requires a PUD amendment as well as a comprehensive plan amendment. So per city ordinance, PUD amendments, they must follow the same process for the initial PUD, which includes a public hearing by the Planning Commission and review and approval by City Council. The public hearing was originally scheduled for June 1st. However, due to some unforeseen emergencies, we were unable to have a quorum. And in order to have that approval or review happen before this meeting, it was rescheduled as a special meeting on Saturday, June 3rd. The developer and his architect have been adjusting the building design to reduce the project costs. That is one of the reasons for the PUD amendment. He's also been working to secure financing based on that current market situation that we're in. The proposed PUD would modify the mix, the use mix in the building by eliminating the dedicated commercial space and changing that instead to first floor live-work units. That change increases the overall residential unit count from 82 to 84, and that is the trigger of the comp plan amendment. The plan also modifies the parking lot by reducing the total overall stall count from 93 to 91. That was actually a requirement in the original approval resolution to make the parking lot ADA compliant. And finally, the building design was modified slightly as will be discussed in the following slides. Collectively, the proposed adjustments were deemed substantial enough by planning staff to require an amendment to the approved PUD. I went through a lot of different design slides with the Planning Commission, and they all agreed that the development team has retained the initial design intent of the building. So this is kind of a close-up of the first floor. So the design's slightly modified in response to the elimination of the commercial space. The mezzanine and the taller ceilings, they're no longer necessary, and thus the overall building height has been reduced from about 58 feet down to 50 feet. And like I said, the Planning Commission reviewed the design modifications, and they agreed that the intended aesthetic has been retained while value engineering the project. So in the Planning Commission meeting, the question was brought up about the eligibility of the PUD. And per the ordinance, the project must meet one of the following to be eligible. It has to have a site with multiple buildings on it, multiple principal buildings, or it must be a multi-use structure with more than one principal use. The building as proposed meets that eligibility requirement. It will contain 2 principal uses, the multifamily dwelling units and then the live-work units. I'll also note that the proposed project as amended remains consistent with the comprehensive plan and the intent of the downtown mixed-use district. The project creates the high-density residential that was envisioned per the comprehensive plan. It will also help spur commercial development activity in the existing vacant spaces downtown. Additionally, in designing the building, the developer and architect consulted with the community in a public forum on the aesthetic of the building, and that was inspired by our community's manufacturing history. And they also intend to integrate a historic mural on the western side of the building. The project still meets 3 public benefit options per the ordinance. It provides a mix of housing units, and it's consistent with the city's overall housing goals. As mentioned, the increased density in the downtown will help generate demand for retail and commercial opportunities. The project provides for public improvement, such as sidewalk and other infrastructure associated with the 7th Avenue project, and that serves the area beyond the project boundaries. And additionally, the building will provide significant tax base by redeveloping an underutilized site in the corner of downtown. There was also some discussion about the elimination of the dedicated commercial space. So staff would like to provide some clarification on the function of the live-work component of that building. That the opportunity for retail will remain, or commercial businesses rather. Those units located along 7th Avenue, they will have the ability to hold businesses. Instead of 7 of those, there will be 9, and they can have any number of retail or service uses, with the exception of commercial food service. So a restaurant wouldn't be allowed in those. The ordinance does require a separate entrance for the business from the public street, which is proposed, and a separate entrance for the dwelling, and there is an internal hallway for those. So the project complies with both of those requirements. Note that it is staff's interpretation that those units are designed as live-work. They're designed to be flexible, so if the market doesn't exist for a business perhaps, then it could be fully residential. The comprehensive plan amendment, as I mentioned, is necessary because of the increase in the dwelling unit count. At 84 units, the site would exceed the density allowance for the site, which is 110 units per acre. So just 2 additional units jumps it up to 114 dwelling units per acre. So the proposed comprehensive plan amendment it addresses the city overall. The density bonus option is proposed to be a site-specific bonus of up to 130 units per acre. The amendment will recognize that in certain situations, and upon accepted criteria, the city may allow a density bonus of up to 130 units per acre, depending on the site and depending on the project. This modification will allow approval of the current project to go forward, and any future site considered for density bonus would require another map amendment, and then it would also require extensive engineering analysis and scrutiny by Planning Commission and City Council. So at the present time, the amendment is being prepared specifically for this project. So as I mentioned, the Planning Commission considered the proposal at the public hearing on June 3rd. They unanimously recommended approval of the proposed PUD and comp plan amendment. Overall, staff finds the project to be to help fulfill the long-range goals for the housing and redevelopment while providing high-quality project in the area that is currently underutilized. So staff also recommends approval of the proposed PUD and associated comp plan amendment. And with that, I can take any questions.
Questions, anyone?
In the original open houses and public forums, I'm not aware of what was presented to the public. Do you believe that live-work units were adequately described to the public in those public forums when they were giving comments about the buildings as a possibility?
The live-work units were always considered a piece of the project. It was part of the original approval. There was always going to be 7 of them. And I recall there was discussion at that, I don't remember when, but I remember saying myself that this is considered to be a flexible use, that if there isn't a market potential for those, then residential would be a flexibility that the city would allow as part of the PUD approval.
What is the measurements for the live work? Is it going to be built to suit that person, so they might have a bigger upfront, or are they all the same as far as the part of the work?
I think it would be helpful for the development team to answer that, but the conceptual layout has the individual units demarcated by different sizes. I'm not entirely sure what the square footage is. Could you address that?
Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening, See you.
Good evening, council members. I'm Jim Lavelle. I'm with TGL Development. This is Jeff Reedy. He's with MGD Design.
Welcome.
We're excited to be here. And hopefully we can explain in detail what you're looking for. The live workspaces are varied in size.
Okay.
I think there's, yeah, there's, we have three larger, 4, 3 medium and 2 smaller. So
They range in
sizes from, the biggest one was like 1,200.
Yeah, 800 to 1,200 square feet.
Total, live and work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that answers your question.
No. The commercial space was a big deal on my end. When it's a live-work space, is it specific? So when she says specifically, sorry, Brandy indicates that it's specifically, you cannot have restaurants in there. That's essentially what you can have. What can you have? Can you have a bakery? Can you have a coffee shop? Can you have a step below a full-service restaurant?
By code.
I'm looking to see what the code says.
To defer, I'm sorry, I don't know that.
Thank you.
The code says commercial food service requiring a license would not be allowed.
So if you're serving anything, really anything, you have to have a
Commercial food
license.
Service, that, I interpret that to be restaurant.
So
Anything food
packaged
related.
Packaged food would be acceptable, like a coffee shop that would have packaged sandwiches and.
I think that would be up for interpretation.
Well, and just with some restaurant history, I presume that you could have a coffee shop. They would have a bakery to be your delivery person for those. But I'm not code, so I don't work for food. I don't do the compliance, so.
Just off the cuff here, I would say restaurant, no. A corner shop selling prepackaged food where nothing is being prepared on site is probably okay.
Councilmember Schwer, what qualifies as a restaurant actually gets pretty granular at times on some of this in terms of how the food is served, how it's packaged, things like that. And even if it doesn't look like your traditional restaurant that you'd sit down and order food at, it may still need a restaurant license. So, I mean, it's a very hard question to answer right now without knowing exactly what it's going to be for sale.
Okay.
Because Brandy, as I understand it, it's the licensure that trips the requirement. Did it say if it's a licensed?
The language, as I recall it being stated, is commercial food service with a business license. Or requiring a business license.
So we have 3 council members that are brand new since this project started. So we don't know what the back end, what happened to get us to the point we're in now as far as, just kind of understanding the commercial part of it. I know when I was out doing campaigning, it was a big thing of having, buildings downtown that do have some kind of a commercial, as far as having restaurants and things and then living above it, so.
Well, maybe I could give a little more context to where we started and how we landed.
That would be awesome.
That'd be great.
I appreciate that.
I thought we did, with the city's assistance, there's been a lot of community participation, what was proposed, what was approved. We had Jeff and his team went with this historian group, and it was a great path to where we landed. And then we went from that to financing and construction and all that fun stuff. And in between, what I did is I engaged with 3 different commercial real estate firms that specialize in retail real estate to help me with this retail space and what we do with it, and what's the best way to go with it. And I don't mean to be negative to the community at all, but 2 of them said, you shouldn't do it. And the third said, why would the city want it if they're going to cannibalize the possibility of these vacant storefronts to get rejuvenated again? And then the third component of that, just from the brokerage community, is we'll have to charge $25 to $30 a foot. Your neighbors are going to charge $15 a foot. I don't know the viability of it. So there was that dialogue, right? And then we went to the lending community. We went to 5 banks. Sunrise Bank is the lender that was most aggressive, and the other banks were really didn't even want to lend us the money. Their underwriting team said, we're not going to give you credit for that retail part of the building on an income stream, which equates to a value loss of about $800,000 to $900,000. And then coupled with the construction costs that have increased over since we started, we made different changes to the building to make it more financially feasible. That's how we landed where we started and where we landed.
So that 8 foot, you just pretty much took the 2-story first level and dropped it to 1-story first level, correct? That's how you got your 8 feet down. That's about the.
$1.5 million to do that.
Right.
For the live work is 8 foot, I don't even know what we got in here.
No, the ceilings will still be.
It's about 12, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, they're
Ceilings,
12.
the ceilings in the dwelling units upstairs, 2 through 4 will be 9 feet, and
Yeah.
downstairs,
They're 12 feet to the
12.
underside of the precast.
Oh, good. So it just still has a little bit more space
It does.
Volume space, yeah.
on the first level.
So hopefully that was short, but kind of sweet to the point where we started.
Do you mind if I speak a little bit about meeting with the Historic Society? So the first thing we did was we sat down with the Historic Society, and we did a field trip over there. And we went and we looked through a ton of pictures of the old buildings in town. And we settled on a look from one of the buildings where they were building pianos and organs, which then in fact turned into downhill skis. And so that, one of those buildings is what this building looks like. And it's a fantastic interpretation of that. The brown brick facades of these buildings right here take elements off of that design. The limestone base, the brick, the arched windows, the cornice work and things like that. And then we coupled that with other industrial features that you have in town here, and we came up with more of an industrial feel for the corner, which has the very pointed deck and outdoor patios that are pointing right at the corner of Helen and 7th. So we're really proud of this design. As you wrap around to the backside, we've incorporated some, like Brandy had said, we incorporated some historic photographs into the glass of the building. And because Sepulveda was a trolley line. And so we have a historic picture that is 12 feet tall of a trolley in the back, right on the corner of Sepulveda and Helen. So we're very excited with the design. As far as the live work is concerned, I'm very passionate about this because those are the spaces that I needed when I started my firm. I started my architecture firm, it was just me and another guy in the basement of my house. And if we had something like this, these are really incubator spaces that are going to grow businesses. My business now 30 people, and we outgrew my house very quickly. And now we take up 4,500 square feet in St. Paul. But these spaces right here are going to be the incubators that are going to populate the rest of Main Street as they outgrow these smaller spaces. So I really believe in this concept, and I think this is a good space for you guys to grow businesses and provide opportunities for young people in your community to start businesses right here, and then they can grow out into the bigger spaces that need to be populated in downtown.
It could be like a small jeweler, it could be a real estate professional, it could be an attorney, it could be.
Yeah, an
drive,
accountant
it
starting
could
out.
be, many different types of uses that they're.
Yeah.
Anybody.
Anybody.
I'm 20 out of college and I'm gonna start something new,
Yeah.
Someone could be selling art, it could be a lot of creative things that drives.
Exactly. Anybody who's
traffic
dumb
and
enough
people
to
and-
start their own business. This one right here, and just think that they can do it better than the last time. And so I would really encourage you guys to think about that, those live-work units. I think that's a really neat idea.
I think the building is beautiful. You couldn't have made it nicer.
Well, thanks.
The only thing is that retail element that we've been
I get it.
talking to people about, and that was kind of people, well, okay, we can have people downtown as long as there's a
Right.
retail part of it. So
Right.
that is where it becomes us trying to just figure out how that works with everybody, because we didn't have much time to absorb this as far as the public with this, so there was some concern that was coming about with it, so. So live, work, and necessarily don't have to live there. They can just have the front part and then have it as the lounge or, a
Exactly.
kitchen area for themselves with their bathrooms in the back of their store.
Exactly.
So it's not,
I think of Grand Avenue in St. Paul, where you have jewelry shops, bridal shops, you have ice cream shops, you have dessert shops, right, boom, 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 and they're all in these old homes that are really incubators. They're very similar to this concept here. This is just better because it's right on the main street with a pylon sign or a little blade sign out there that says, "I've hung my shingle."
Plus,
So
there's convenient parking, people can pull right up in front of the buildings.
it's brilliant, yeah. I don't see us losing retail. I see us having more retail here. And they're just gonna be smaller, and they're gonna be incubators, and you're gonna grow businesses, so.
I saw the beautiful building over on Selby, you guys did, thank you
Yeah.
for the invitation again. Is there any retail, or what is the main level of that building on Selby? Is it shops? I can't remember. Is it just all living?
The building, we just finished a building, and thank you for your compliment. It's addressed 594 Selby Avenue, and it's called the Avondale. We opened for first residents on April 27th. It's a 5-story building that's got 91 dwelling units. You drive into the building off of Selby, and a parking garage behind it, and the front of house is just front of house dedicated to the apartments. There's fitness on one end.
Okay.
And then there's different seating notes, fireplaces and stuff, a management office, a package room.
Yeah.
Mailboxes on, just on.
Okay.
Right next to that is there are mixed-use buildings right next to that. A 3-story building that's got a little bit of retail, another 3-story building right next to retail.
And you're not changing the patio at all in our building, the one you're talking about now? That's still the outdoor, nothing's changed in there?
We went through several, we went through and we agreed, I think, really confused the brain day center, all these plans, and all this stuff, we were trying to figure out our numbers. And where we landed is, this building footprint is the same footprint that we received entitlements for last fall. So the underground garage is the same, the second floor amenity deck, which is gonna be a great deck, we're able to keep that in.
The top floor
And
amenity.
the top floor amenity, and there's a second
Yep.
floor club room as well.
Yep.
So.
For the,
The only change is the height of the building is squished, so the facade, as you saw on the slides, has changed a little bit. And then the retail space we're talking about now.
and again, I would just like to compliment you guys. It is a beautiful building. I don't think any of us have any concerns about how it looks or, it is beautiful. And I believe my sticking point again is the commercial. For the renting of the live-work units, is there any sort of business permit required to rent these units? Or if you fill out the building and you have people that want to rent these to live in without a business, you would rent to them, correct?
That would be the intention, yeah. We would do our best to attract, market. We've got a great marketing team, great leasing team to target and bring activity, as much activity to those dwelling units on first floor, live-work units as a commercial use. And I think we'll do a good job. I can't obviously sit here and promise to you that, all of them are gonna be live-work or none of them are gonna be. But we will do our best to market it to that target.
Is there a time frame that you're gonna look at that? I mean, is there, so much time?
Right now, we're at a really great time. Credit committee for Sunrise Bank is tomorrow morning. The appraisal came back low because of some of the stuff Michaela will talk about tonight, but the appraisal needs to get redone. We're hopeful to close on financing this month and start ripping stuff down in July. The contractor, Bauer Design Build, is 13, 14 months. We usually start hard marketing about a year before the building is delivered. So we'll start marketing in the fall. Signage on site and all that stuff. We'll start right away. But all that media stuff, web stuff, is usually about a year out before the building opens.
And say you don't have any renters that first year, but then you have people that would like to go in soon after that, you can turn it right back around into a space, rentable space, not livable space? Am I not following this right? You're looking at me like.
No, I don't know if I understood.
So the biggest concern on, I believe, everyone's forefront was this commercial space that draws in and attracts our city right now. And if we're turning it into a live workspace, my biggest thing is I'd like to see stores down there. Something that attracts people to come in. We just opened a candy store recently, and there are so many people that were like, this is amazing. We want people like that to come down and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe there's this new ice cream store, which now, quite honestly, I don't think you can have one because of the commercial space being removed. But we want the excitement drawn in, and that's where, for me, it's hard. It's a gorgeous building. That space holds pretty tight to me. So if you don't have renters right away and you're going to want to turn it into housing, then are you able to flip that if you had renters, or is that just not going to happen?
Yeah, the space can get retrofitted back. If a renter comes in and the space rolls over, that's what I didn't. Is that your question?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, the space can get retrofitted back to whatever particular use.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Is there any way to rent two and combine them? Or is that not feasible as far as the way the construction of
It's
the
all in
building is?
timing. It's all in timing.
I mean, is that,
I mean, if the two units right next to each other.
yeah, somebody decides, you know what, I'm outgrowing, I don't want to leave, I want to be able to do that, you'd be able to retrofit?
Oh, of course.
For example, if you have a renter for living and a tenant, someone who's looking for storefront, how do you make those decisions? Say that's every single, all 9 of them. That's where
Oh,
they're
if you had competing.
competing
tenants,
applications for those spaces.
Do you want to answer that, or you want me to?
He's thinking.
Competing applications, yeah,
These are street frontage units, so the typical renter is gonna wanna be higher up in the building. I believe that the 4th floor will rent first, and it'll probably rent going down. Maybe the 2nd floor would rent second, closest to the amenity space. The street frontage ones will probably rent last because they're street frontage. But they're basically, they look like retail, so I think that would attract the retail people.
right, if we had competing proposals, I agree with your comments. We want a vibrant a streetscape, we want a vibrancy to the whole 7th Avenue corridor. And driving that vibrancy would be active use. So if there's any inclination that we're gonna get an active user, they're gonna certainly take preference. From a leasing perspective, again, we can't discriminate, there's fair housing practices and things, you can't discriminate that way, but we can certainly lead in preferences and get those active uses downstairs without diminishing upstairs too.
Well,
So-
it's all in marketing too, how you market
Right.
those spaces. I mean, we're not gonna market those spaces to a young family with children. I mean, we're gonna market the spaces as more.
Just hoping that would be last and be able to, fill up and then at the very end, work on the lower level so we can get a chance to get businesses in there. We prefer the work over the live as far as that area.
Right, but these are specific uses here. These are not just your run-of-the-mill Jeff going to get an apartment. These are people that are marketed to people that have businesses or want to start a business. So,
And there's one other thing too that just occurred to me. The way the building gets built is you start and you go up. And then it gets finished from the top down.
Correct.
They don't, so everything that's coming down in the building, so we'll have a whole bunch more time. The last thing that's gonna be finished in here is like the front amenity space and these front,
yeah,
whatever happens with this storefront.
yeah,
So that'll give us many more months
correct,
to market that and to a more retail flavor.
yeah.
So if we make it, if it's commercial, then that changes how you build it? Is that,
Well, if we,
is different rules? So, I mean, if you just say we have 2 at the end, the live work, just combine those 2 and just make it commercial, but then it becomes a whole different for you?
well, yes and no. I mean, all the spaces are gonna be separately metered with their own electrical panel. The spaces would be metered with their own gas as
Correct.
applicable.
Right.
But if you have the one at the end that,
Specialty commercial spaces are gonna require retail spaces. If it's a larger restaurant, they're gonna have venting and shaft requirements that go through the building.
yep,
In this particular building, I think we may be able to sidewall those kind of things.
We could.
So yes and no. I mean, on a retail space, you're gonna
if you could leave the big space at the end,
have a size
Yep.
space, and you're gonna have a guesstimate how big the bathroom is. The plumber's gonna stick
sure.
the most logical bathroom. Those kind of things, simple things.
But we have parking underground, so it's easy to do that. It'll be
Right.
much easier to do that there than it would be at.
But if you leave instead of going 9, go 8 and have the one that's closest to Helen as a bigger space for a more substantial tenant,
Ellen,
or, towards the end.
Towards
Left.
McKnight.
Towards a post.
Yeah, where your retail space was gonna be, the other side, where your retail space was gonna be, make that a bigger so we can actually get something that's a little bit more substantial. Still keep your ceiling, maybe, the height, but
Oh, the ceiling.
just make it double.
Yeah, the ceiling is the ceiling.
Exactly. Well, you lowered it now as far as from the original one, so we dropped it 8 feet, so. But have a little bit more of an area to have somebody that's not gonna start and leave right away. I mean, maybe a little bit of a bigger business to be able to take over that end suite bigger than you have your other 7 that are your normal, regular size. Gives us an opportunity as a big,
Yeah, along those lines, I'm thinking maybe we could work something here creatively that's kind of maybe down the middle of the road for both of us.
well, that's why we're here, yeah.
Yep.
So, for me not to lose the amount of value and create more equity gap with Sunrise Banks, I have to show them that's gonna generate income, which means I have to show them an active use. Well, right now, as presented to you as 2 residential dwelling units on that, where that retail node is.
Okay.
But, based on timing, if we truly market that space as retail space, true retail space, restaurant space, something along what you're asking, for a period of time, a definite period of time, we'll say a year, or something like that. We will not build that space out as residential dwelling units during that time frame. I'll hire a third party, it'd either be JLL, it'll be CBRE, or Upland Real Estate Group. I'll hire a broker, we'll have signage, we'll start doing it right away. We'll put signage out on sites, there'll be web presence. We'll market it as retail space. But if it doesn't come to fruition within a year, can we still do the 2 dwelling units?
My mind, I think that's fair.
I mean, that's
I think
down
that- yeah.
down the middle of the road, and
It is, because
that's
it's,
fair.
you know, you have to make money. We're trying to get, you know, but we have to, I think it's a fair, as long as you're willing to market the hell out of it.
I will make sure who I hire does.
Yep.
Did you provide,
I'm gonna hire, those 3 groups are the best retail groups in town.
Okay.
would you be willing to provide updates to us?
Sure.
Yeah.
If you want email or you want us to come in, and I'll bring the brokers in and we can tell you what's going on. I've done several retail buildings. It's simple as a monthly report or bi-weekly report. Here's who the email blast went to, or here's whatever. Here's all the people we sent it to. Here's the responses. It's track every deal just like that.
Perfect.
So we'd be happy to do that.
Well,
100% disclose who we've talked to, who we sent it to, what the responses are, what the action items are, et cetera.
We can do it as an alternate. We can draw it up as an alternate.
to me, that's fair. It gives you time, and, you know, if the market doesn't dictate it, then you have an option, but hopefully we can get it in there.
Because literally, if I go to Sunrise tomorrow or tonight and tell them that I need to have that as retail space, I'll play a little game. I'm not gonna tell them.
Yep.
Right? But if I can replace that income, I'm not gonna get banged for another $800,000-$900,000 with their equity. Because that's what it'll take. And we've got all the equity right now we're at a minimum return. If I have to bring more equity in, that return goes down and some of that equity will probably go away.
It's fair.
Lawyer?
I understand that.
No, I get the exercise we're going through. My concern is, and this happens every time we bump up against deadlines and things like that, is if we've come to an agreement that everyone's comfortable with, you can live with the year, it gives you guys the opportunity. I was just trying to scroll through the documents to make sure everything's reflective in that. I'm not sure we're quite there on this. So I guess, you know, depending where the council shakes out on approval on that, we may have to modify some of the documents a touch. But I think we can,
It would be as simple as it being in a resolution.
yeah.
That's what I was thinking, is that we would make a motion to modify or approve the resolution as modified with this.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying, as we sit here right now, it's not, Brandy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see it drafted consistent with what's being compromised right now.
No, this is a new idea that would need to be
Yeah.
included.
So the approval could happen tonight. We'd, you know, amend the resolution and authorize the mayor to execute it. But you'd have to decide whether you want the condition is somewhat unique. This whole start out for a year, market, come back, do whatever. So if you want to see the actual language of the resolution, you could authorize it tonight and we bring it back to you for approval. Or staff drafts it and just you guys authorize the mayor to execute it after that. I'd want some direction on that. I'm not a big fan of, in my lane of things, of kind of drafting these things on the fly right now. I'd like to sit down and take a look at it, but so we can either bring it back to you or you can authorize the mayor's signature based on the revised document. But conceptually, I understand what's being proposed.
I'm following you.
I've been here just as much as everybody else that's been here, so you kind of got an idea.
Well, no, I haven't been intimately involved in the project, but I know Brandy's been working on it and I've seen some of the final documents, so I get it.
Okay, I think, to my mind, that's fair. We're gonna hit it hard and do what we can do. Anybody else have any concerns?
Yeah, I guess my concern is 1 year. I'm wondering if that may be just a hair too short because the economy is a little bit unsure, unless there's a way we can say, we'll really try to at least fill 25% of those, you know, with commercial within 2 years or something, whereas the other ones, we would like to have that advertised as commercial, but maybe after 1 year, then that component would be eligible to be switched over to living. Does that make sense?
So let me just, so the previous plan that was approved by the city council had 1,575 square feet of retail space. That is now 2 dwelling units. So we're gonna market that space for a period of 1 year. And then you've asked for an extension on that, but then you also referenced the other dwelling units as well, the other units on the first floor? Is that correct?
The live work
The
units?
work ones? I don't know that I can agree to that because our lender's gonna require even more equity. I need to show them I have land use approval secured for what financial performance they're looking at. And if I come back to them and I say that this whole first floor is gonna be marketed as retail for a period of 2 years, my financing is gonna go away. So I'm sorry,
It's fair. It's good. That's why we're asking questions.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to, but I just, we're at right now, one of the metrics that you need to, there's a debt coverage ratio measurement, and the term sheet from the bank is a minimum of 120. Our financial performer right now is 1.25. That's how tight it is.
I trust them to do their best intention and market this towards commercial like we've asked. Hypothetically, if that fails, are we doing a disservice to the other residents down there? If they have empty first floor units, do we have to allow them to turn them into residential areas? Is this setting a precedent for this is our historic downtown. Is this setting a precedent or something that we need to be concerned about? You know, let's hypothetically, you know, I don't want any business to go to, but if one of our current businesses goes out, and those, like say, they put every effort into it, just didn't work, they're now residential units on the first floor, do we have to let the other ones change to a live-work unit or a residential unit on the first floor?
I can take a crack at that. So the rather straightforward and simple answer is no, it does not set a precedent, at least in my opinion. I think the analysis, however, that you're walking through is an important one because one of the tenets of government is consistency of actions and treating people and folks in similarly situated situations the same. There's always ways to differentiate and distinguish and say that was then, this is now, things are different with that, things of that nature. So I don't think it's precedential, but to your point, if you have a vision of first floor buildings on that street looking a certain way, you know, there's the creep factor. If you allow it in one, what about the other things of that nature? And so it's the proper thing to analyze and then get yourself comfortable with. You know, the developers come to you and said, here's, the initial plan was to do that. We're still interested in doing it, but we're getting feedback on market conditions. What, you know, the next project that comes down the pipeline, what the market conditions are in 3 years is anyone's bet. I'm not good at forecasting that. So you're not bound by this decision forevermore, but certainly if someone came in with a new application and saw what was being built here and what it looked like, it's a fair question to say, I'd like what they've got. And you need to be able to discuss that, you know, intelligently and say why yes to this and no to another.
Makes sense.
And I even talked to one of the owners at the Sentinel building just to kind of discuss with them where we're at with things, and he loves the look of the building. Thinks it's gonna be a nice addition to downtown North St. Paul. Commercial, he went through the same thing you did. It went down to, I think he's at 4,800 now where max is, but just trying to, you know, jockey that. It's always harder to get commercial in there than it is, of course, the residential part of it. But, you know, he thinks it's a good project, but he'd like to still see something, as long as you guys give your best effort and try to do it. We can't force anybody to move in there, but we want to give people an opportunity to be able to, because we went from that size building to that one corner, live, work. I think it's great. I hope we get people that are going to start small businesses, because we need more and more. So we're looking forward to that part of it. But for me, if you're, you know, if we're willing, you have a great project, we're together, we're locked arm in arm. You own the property and we want a beautiful downtown. So, you know, we're at the dance. We got to dance together. So, and that's what we're trying to do. That's why we're asking you is what you can do. And I appreciate you bringing that up and, you know, being able to do that, because we want this partnership to work. We want the best downtown and we're together. So moving forward, I personally would feel comfortable with the year, really trying to market the heck out of that and get something bigger in there. The rest of my colleagues here on the council,
And
do you have any idea?
Clarify?
Sure.
So it's 1 year for those 2 units that were added. And then the other spaces would also be advertised for commercial initially.
Live work.
Yeah,
Live
no,
work.
Just live work, yeah.
Yes, it's gonna be more of a.
Workspace,
It's not, you're
retail.
advertise something that's more creatively.
Sure.
For active use than just a residence, right? It's not gonna be just it could be more than just your home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sell something differently.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't exclusively just those 2 units that were gonna be advertised like that, but the duration of time it is.
And
year.
I have a question for the future. Let's just look out 10 years from now, because more rooftops in neighborhoods creates more retail. So in the future, if more retail is needed in downtown, how easy or difficult would it be to turn some of these other live works into commercial? Is it as simple as a building permit, or is it more of a come in and ask for an application?
I would say that it would be as simple as a building permit.
Okay. Because, you know, my experience is the more housing you have in downtown areas, the more retail you will get. So we're a little bit chicken and the egg here. We're trying to get the housing here so we get more retail, but first you need the housing.
And we're doing it the right way, because like you said, instead of building it and they will come, we got them, now we're gonna build it.
Exactly,
That's
yeah.
exactly what we're trying. And we
Yeah.
do have some spots in downtown. We have a vacant lot. We have some older places. We have a few lots. So we do have some room to grow as far as the different businesses as well. So more people will be, more shops going up and down the street.
Because I've built my entire career on this concept of more housing, denser, providing more retail experiences in walkable communities. And that's exactly what you guys are doing here. And so that's the basis of the question.
Yep, that's a great question. I mean, like I said, I will, hopefully, we'll be able to get all the live work and the retail, and maybe down the line, they'll say, you know what, we're growing, we want to take the one next door and start building out. That happens in any kind of a building complex, you know, people take over other suites all the time.
Yep. Okay.
As long as that's there, we'd be able to do that. Anything else?
This is one comment for us as council and, you know, you all as partners too, is I think it's going to be really important for us to engage the EDA on this. This is something that is really within their purview to be able to support. And so I would really be much more comfortable if we had their support as well with, you know, whether that be providing incentives to help people move retail in there or something. I think that would help us more than, or, you know, we're going to get to our goal. We're leveraging our resources collectively.
Yes.
And
We have a
so,
great EDA program, that would be awesome.
so
Great.
I hope we can make that a priority.
Yep. More than happy to bring that up. Oh, yeah.
That's a good point.
I guess the lack of commercial space was kind of a craw for all of us, and I understand they put a lot of work and a lot of effort. I have some concerns about a bottom of the ninth change of strategy. You know, we're hashing something out in 10 minutes. I understand they have deadlines. I understand they put a lot of money and resources into this. I'm just slightly concerned. And it has nothing to do with their intentions. Their building is absolutely beautiful.
Process.
I'm just really concerned about this being a, you know, 15-minute process for this big of a change.
Well, we're back up to where we were before we started all this. We have 1,500 feet of retail. We're gonna market the heck out of it for a year. So I think we're kind of back up to where we were, if I'm not mistaken. Building's a little lower, but so we're kind of staying the net as far as where we were with retail for that.
And my understanding is there's going to be some, and there will have to be some changes into the agreement.
If what we land on is what's the compromise is being proposed, yeah, we're gonna have to change, slightly modify what's in front of you. But I think what I'm hearing is you need the approvals by the end of the month. Is that correct?
We'd like to secure the land use approvals this evening.
I understand that.
It will only help navigate credit committees, appraisals, and all the other things that need to get redone so we can close this month.
So there's two ways to do it. I mean, understanding, I have yet to meet an applicant that didn't want it yesterday, and I understand that, and I want to accommodate it. The language that I've heard is, you know, it makes sense, but it's still a little vague in some respects, the year, and then what are the triggers, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, those are details that we need to pump into these agreements. So I think, you know, depending on what you feel you need, if you need the signed resolutions, that isn't going to happen until 2 weeks anyway. There's nothing to sign. We don't have that here tonight. So I do think this is going to have to come back to you to just make sure we got the drafting of it right. So if what you want to do is draft a resolution approving these subject to the resolution, I don't know if that helps you, or if there's a a motion to draft staff to put together the revised documents consistent with what your intentions are tonight. We'll bring those documents back. But we don't have those documents right now.
Could I interject and see if I can?
Sure.
The approval resolution could be modified with direction to amend the development agreement potentially. So this language could be in the development agreement, because really, is it what you need is the resolution of approval that has some contingencies attached to it?
The resolution can come back, understanding that I have dates and other things in my head, and maybe we need to talk through things like that to do the resolution, but understanding that I can go and send an email or a text to my banker and say, we've got land use approval secured.
Yeah.
I need, you know, there'll be a resolution forthcoming, and from the next council session, I think that'll fly fine.
But to Brandy's point, if we modify the resolution, that can be signed, that it's approved. I mean, it's subject, though. We're going to have to modify the development agreement. The terms that we're talking about are going to get put in there. And so if your lender's comfortable with just the resolution without seeing the terms in the development contract, we can probably have that accomplished this week, but my experience has been they
They'll
also
wanna
want
see
to take
the
a peek at the conditions.
Yeah. I guess more so know we have a project as we've talked about tonight, so however we can, if I can just tell them we've got
Yeah.
a quorum from the council, then.
I think so. I mean, I think the point is to be able to, and I'm not trying to interject myself on your side of the equation here, but I mean, if you hear support here, bring back a resolution that gives you a year to do what's been discussed. We'll modify the documents to say that, and then candidly, it should just be a consent item. I don't know if that helps appease concerns or not. I'm just concerned that we can't give you final documents with our vote tonight because we don't have them before us.
Okay.
So we could vote to approve it subject to bringing those documents back, but they're still going to have to come back.
That would be great if we could do that, subject to.
Documents from,
Well, to Brandy's point, the development contract does not contemplate what's been discussed tonight. I'm not in a position to draft that right now. So it's going to have to come back to you for approval.
that makes sense.
So we can certainly adopt the resolution that says we approve the project subject to a revised development contract, bring it back, but it's coming back.
Okay.
To be clear, the mayor does not have the authority to sign the resolution with one additional contingency, that they have a revised development contract.
Well, but it's a critical term to the contract. How do they know what they're approving right now is my point. So, I mean, this is a condition that's been negotiated during a city council meeting with direct council input. Conceptually, I get what you're at, but we have to put some detail on that.
Sure.
That detail, in my opinion, is not before you. So, yes, I have done contingencies when we're cleaning up legal descriptions, cleaning up some other things, little pots and pans type stuff, but not on something like this, no.
So the resolution approving the PUD plus the development agreement would be next council meeting
Yes,
as a consent agenda, both of those
in
items.
my opinion.
Okay. That's acceptable.
When is that? Of June,
20th.
20th of June. 2 weeks.
Yep.
20th.
So I guess what I was Jim, trying to get you is, if we've got 3 votes here to give you the concession that you're looking for, then this is a go. I don't know if in the next 2 weeks you need to make some representation to your lending, spoke to the city. Here's the existing documents that were before them. What we've agreed to is to, however you choose to present that. If there's something we can do tonight to help appease your lending, then I'd like to help fashion that. If it's no, just let me know when we've got the final documents. That's probably going to be 2 weeks. So I was trying to get us to is there something soft we can give you tonight to help with your lending?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So if it's on consent next week, there won't even be a vote tonight. Is that correct? Or next cycle, excuse me.
What I would be looking for a vote, to just clean things up from my perspective, is we just lay this whole thing over, unless there's some reason why we can't, till the meeting 2 weeks from now. So it wouldn't be next week, it'd be 2 weeks.
So there'll be no action tonight.
No action. We bring it back, clean resolutions that reflect the revised development agreement with that new condition, and then it should all be consent. There would be a vote. There's no reason you would have looked necessarily, but at the top of this agenda, there's a consent where there's no discussion. It's just voted on at the beginning of the meeting.
I'm familiar with that.
Yep. 10 minutes later, you're out.
If some opinions change, though, it can be pulled off consent.
It can. Yep.
Everything could change in 2 weeks again.
And I know, and I get that. My concern, well, what I'll just straight up tell you is that any vote we made tonight would just be direction anyway. We're not going to approve the project, until we see the development contract. So I have seen votes change like you're discussing, and I understand that concern. I think that any vote tonight directing us to do it is a commitment from those voting that provided the language meets with their intention, then we're good to go. I haven't seen North St. Paul back out of an agreement like that.
So you're saying do we vote tonight?
Yep, so.
We want to work with you.
Yeah.
We want to work with you. We want to see.
Here's my recommendation. You basically, and Michaela, if you need to help on this, do you need final action on any of your things tonight? You do, on the TIF? And that has to be voted on tonight. It can't be laid over for 2 weeks?
The initial TIF documents did not have a minimum assessment agreement contained within it. Sunrise Banks commissioned Albridge appraisals to do the appraisal. They will not consider the value of the TIF without a minimum assessment agreement minimally. That's approved by the city. The value that Valbridge, it was several $1 million. The value of the appraisal they came up with for this project was several million, over like close to $3 million low. So we don't have a project unless I get the TIF, those documents approved by the city. They will not release the appraiser to reappraise the project unless those documents are approved. So.
Michaela, do you, yeah.
Minimally, if we can have action on those.
Michaela, from your,
That'll help a lot.
yep.
I mean, otherwise, I've come here tonight and we made no progress at all.
Michaela, is there, in terms of what's been discussed in terms of the modification, does that impact anything on the TIF side from your perspective? No? Okay. I know we're ahead of ourselves. This is such a package deal from my perspective. Yep.
As Jim was saying, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Michaela Hewitt with Baker Tilly, working on behalf of the city on the financial tax increment financing related to the project. To answer the question on the financing, as part of the revised TIF agreement, that is one of the next action items related to that is the inclusion of a minimum assessment agreement, which is establishing the minimum taxable value of the project over the life of the tax increment district, which has been required by by Sunrise Bank, the potential lender for the developer. And so part of that valuation is based on the project as completed, based on an 84-unit apartment or 84-unit multifamily project with the live-work units. So that is what the value of the minimum assessment agreement tied to the revised TIF agreement is based on. And they've also, Ramsey County Assessor has reviewed the development plans, the financial pro forma, all based on the revised concept with the apartment units, the live-work units, and kind of that modified space. And the signing of the agreement, which I'm prepared to walk through the revised terms at that action item, is all necessary for the developer to pursue financing. And that TIF piece is an important component of getting the primary financing of the project.
Michaela, from your standpoint, the revised documents reflect turning the first floor into the residential component. Does it alter it if it stays commercial for a year and then has the option to convert in a year as being discussed?
I would have to have a discussion with the Ramsey County Assessor just to confirm. I think as it stands now, as the live workspace, it's all been valued as residential space. So if it does become commercial, that's something I would have to confirm with them how that would impact. And from a valuation standpoint, the value they determined is based on the income approach, so the income of the project upon completion, what the rents are going to be. There would also be, if the project is, if a portion of it is classified as commercial industrial per the retail component, that would also have a different classification rate and would slightly adjust what the tax increment and property taxes would be for the project.
Because as things sit right now, the TIF has already been approved last fall, correct?
Yep, right, the tax increment plan was approved last fall, and that was simply providing the city with the authority to use tax increment financing, but it was not a pledge of the increment.
So from my perspective, what's before you, members of the council, is items B, C, D, and E, and they all relate to what's before you. The consideration of a resolution to approve the PUD is what Brandy's already presented to you and explained, hey, here's kind of the give and take from the PUD. I think Brandy's also touched on the need to amend the comp plan. And then what we've talked about is revising the development agreement. So from my perspective, items B, C, and D are all pretty well tied together. And so until we get the language revising the development contract, it sounds to me like, yes, there's support to do this, but let us see that year provision in there. And then you become a lot more comfortable with the PUD comp plan and development contract. So I see those all three coming back. And so to me, what would make sense is a resolution directing staff to revise the development contract consistent with the discussion that's been here tonight regarding the continue to have the retail on the the commercial on the first floor for a period of a year. We can put in some timeframes. Jim will be talking to you about that. The triggering mechanisms to allow it to go to residential. That comes back to you, at which point in time there's a motion to approve all of these items. The comp plan does take a supermajority vote on this. I'll double check that. In terms of the TIF, I have not been involved on, and so if that's ready to be approved tonight, and if that helps, that's not a bad gesture to do. What I don't know is, given what we're doing to change the development contract, whether that would impact how they would appraise it, or whether that would impact the assessment agreement. So I don't know how to give you good advice on that. If Michaela, if you're comfortable proceeding with that, I certainly am too.
I was just looking back, so again, some of the history on the TIF agreement, or the project, the tax increment district, and the TIF agreement. It was all approved by council last fall. I just looked at the definition of with the TIF agreement back, and it was, the definition of project was an approximate 82 multifamily apartment building consisting of studio, 1 and 2 bedroom floor plans with structured parking to be located on the development property. So the definition of the property has not changed from what it was originally approved within the TIF agreement. It actually now is an 84 unit instead of an 82 unit. So I just wanted to point out, from the definition of what the project was, there was no change from what was already considered approved. Knowing that the concept was this live, work, small piece of retail, but I would say even from the history of back last fall, that was included within the project. So I just wanted to point out that it's not part of the definition, or wasn't part of the definition from the original TIF agreement that was considered.
Brandy, did you intend to do separate presentations for C and D, or do you feel like you've already covered those?
I covered C. D, I think we could, D is really just the
development.
It's the development agreement as was required per the original approval back in October.
So what you have in your packet contemplates everything that would be required from my perspective, with the exception of what's been discussed here tonight on the year layover, or the additional year. So from my perspective, my only concern with amending the PUD tonight and amending the comp plan are, if for some reason the development contract doesn't come back to your liking, or if Jim and I can't come to an agreement, which I have every reason to believe we will, you've done those actions on those property. To me, much like they're all in line tonight, it makes sense to bring them all back and approve them with one fell swoop at your next meeting. That would be the typical process. It seems like the TIF is ready to go, so I certainly have no objection. I don't do your TIF work for you, but I understand they go hand in hand. So depending, I don't know if there's other thoughts or considerations, otherwise I can help with a resolution, combined resolution for B, C, and D. Brandy, unless you have other thoughts on it.
A combined resolution, can you explain what you mean by that?
Sure. What I'm envisioning is a motion to direct staff to revise the development contract consistent with requiring commercial to remain on the first floor as originally contemplated for a period of year. At such point in time, if that first floor, or that it's no longer deemed feasible, which we need to talk about, it can be converted to residential. So those would be the broad terms in the development contract. And then directing staff to bring back a motion for approval for the PUD amendment, the comprehensive plan, and the revised development contract at your next meeting scheduled for June 20th to be placed on the consent agenda. If there's that motion, we'll take that and run. Jim, any extra thoughts on that?
Sounds great, thank you.
Yep.
And then approve the TIF tonight?
Yeah, we'll get to that one next. Yep, so if anyone wants to say so moved based on that recommendation, I think we're good.
So moved based on the recommendation.
Second?
Second. Excuse me, second.
Councilmember Wong, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch,
you.
Jim.
Appreciate you working with us.
Not this
Go get
time.
her.
So then, from my perspective, we're on item E. Sorry about the agenda management on that, but I think that's where we're at.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Would you like Michaela back up to discuss that, or are you happy with what you've heard?
For the TIF?
Correct.
Yeah, does Michaela, do you wanna?
Motion?
Well,
Motion.
what,
Wait,
Oh, I thought you were
Yes.
done up there, I'm sorry.
I have a little bit more information, sorry. Just a little bit more information on the financial package that's before you, or tonight, related to the revised TIF agreement. As I said, there's two things that changed within the TIF assistance agreement. One is, as I mentioned, related to the addition of that assessment agreement to establish a minimum value of the project. Just a little background, as I said, it's based on their financing. Typically, you would look at an assessment agreement, a minimum assessment agreement, if there's city financing. The building across the street did have a minimum assessment agreement because that was related to how the city financed or participated with tax increment financing for that project. However, in certain cases, even if it's pay-as-you-go financing or reimbursement of certain project costs, the developer's lender requires a minimum assessment agreement to establish the value, which is one piece of the puzzle of calculating tax increment over the life of the district. The second change as pursuant to the TIF agreement is in working with the developer, and this did come, I think, it was fairly rapid as far as, the developer working on their financing and then going through the process with their lender, Sunrise. Sunrise coming back with a significantly lower value and loan amount than what the project needed to proceed. So it sort of set the ball in motion very quickly to try to work on what remedies could be to fill the financing gap. One of that being the need for the assessment agreement. I know I've said that 5 times now, but that was an important component of it. The second piece was as they were continuing to value engineer the project, he talked about ways to try to reduce costs. We're all tired of hearing the interest rate environment, construction costs, all those issues. But all of that also led it to a upfront or equity gap for the developer. So as part of the revised TIF agreement is also the provision of providing more of an upfront financial incentive of the $793,000 in change that's in it. And that is really to help the developer with the first 10 years of cash flow based on the projected operating or projected rents of the project, the net operating expenses, and the availability of cash flow to both repay the debt obligation at the minimum of the 1.2 times coverage for the debt, and a reasonable return on their equity. They had requested additional cash flow assistance of the $793,000, which would be provided pursuant to the agreement. It would be provided based on them actually incurring site improvement costs. It would be still more of a reimbursement for those costs, but it would be based on using funds on hand, which, again, history on the city's action in December. There's special legislation that was adopted by, or there was special legislation that was included within the TIF statutes that allows cities to establish what's the spending plan. So taking existing tax increment funds from districts and establishing a plan for being able to use those as one-time funds or one-time use on projects that met three conditions: one, on either new construction or substantial rehab of buildings. That project would create jobs, including construction jobs, but for the use of that additional funds, the project would not proceed. So that spending plan was approved in December of last year, and that provided the city with this kind of one-time use of funds to be able to use for certain instances. As it turned out, this project was a candidate for it based on the amount of tax increment that could be generated from the project was not enough to be able to get the developer and the equity investors over the hurdle of being able to proceed. So the revised TIF agreement did two things. First, the value of the tax increment revenue note, which would be the reimbursement based on the future tax increments of the project, was reduced. It was $5.3 million as approved last fall. That number is now $4.35 million. So the pay-as-you-go note is $4.35 based on the future tax increments of the district. And also included was that upfront amount of the $793,000. So the actual pledge TIF to the developer is less than what was initially approved last fall, just by about $100,000. However, it's structured a little different based on what their financing and equity investors need. So the action before you tonight is to consider the revised TIF agreement based on the inclusion of the assessment agreement and the modification of the TIF assistance to include both the upfront and the revised tax increment note. And the last piece is, again, this is a pay-as-you-go financing, so the city is not providing, well, they're providing the upfront funds, but they're not providing, and that's all based on actual costs that are incurred of the project for site improvements and acquisition as allowed by the TIF statute. So that's a short summary of kind of the history, the revised TIF agreement. I'd be happy to answer any questions or stop talking. Sorry.
Just as an educational point, could you explain what a minimum assessment agreement is? Is that between the building and Ramsey County for taxable purposes? I just want to make sure I have that clear.
No, that's a good question. So minimum assessment agreement is agreed upon value between the county, between Ramsey County, the city, and the developer. And it establishes what the minimum value is going to be on this project over the life of the tax increment financing district. So the county assessor established the value based on the project pro forma, including the projected rents of the building upon completion. And that is what the minimum value will be until the tax increment district is decertified. And that value is $18,517,000. So it can be higher than that, but never lower.
And let's say 5 years from now, Jim wants to retire. Does that have any bearing on if he sells the property outright, or does that handcuff the city or him?
That's a good question. Within the TIF agreement, there's also what's referred to, well, there's a couple things. One, if the developer decides to sell the property, there's conditions within the agreement where you would allow it, but there's assignment, but there's notification to the council of being able to do that. There's also what's referred to as a look-back provision, meaning that if there is a sale, there's language in the agreement, but if there's a sale within a certain amount of time, there is a review of the financials to ensure that the developer is not selling. Essentially what it's doing is making sure that they're not selling the property for more than it's worth because there's a tax increment note tied to it. So there's specific language in the agreement that allows that look back, if you will, to analyze the performance of the project and make sure that the TIF So it doesn't hamstring, it would go along with the buyer, but there could be an adjustment to the TIF based on the performance of the project at the time of the sale.
And I know Reflex Medical paid theirs earlier, and you can't do that with the TIF.
So that's a good question, that it is with the pay-as-you-go note, there is a maximum principal amount, that 4.35 million, over the full 26 years. There is an annual pledge of increment. It's 80% for the first 15 years, and then 90%, or excuse me, I think it's 90% for the first 15 years, and then 80% for the last 11 years. But you're right, if those are the maximum, so if the value is higher or taxes are higher and you get paid off sooner, then that obligation would go away.
Thank you. I appreciate taking the time to explain that to us.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I think, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So I think the motion for tonight is to, yep.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Your Honor.
So move, Councilmember Wong. Second?
Second?
Councilmember Norby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Michaela. All right. Next up is the application request from Newman's Bar and Grill for a temporary extension of their on-sale liquor license to include a portion of their paved parking area located at 2531 7th Avenue East on Saturday, September 16th, 2023.
Yeah, so I just had a process question, excuse me, in regards to this application. So is it pretty typical that we extend it on their properties? That's something, it's pretty normal that we do? Like, yeah.
I'm gonna let her expand on it, but being that we came forward with, I don't know if this is part of the outdoor seating or not. Can you?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just trying to gain like clarity around, would this be a similar process for the, outdoor seating or the public right-of-way, even though this is private?
Of course, our attorney leaves the room. There's been some conversations in City Hall about liquor licenses lately, as Jenny and I and some other staff are trying to wrap our heads around them. It's my understanding that, I'm probably gonna have the terminology incorrect, but what we have is a temporary situation is what you're granting permission for this special event. When we're talking about the extension of premises for the outdoor seating on the public right-of-way, that's an expansion or extension of their liquor license completion. So this is specific to like the 1 day or 2 day or however long the event is.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification. That's all I really wanted to kind of understand.
Can,
So moved.
We're getting it done. I'll second. I already second.
You second it? Councilmember Wong? Now you got me all screwed up.
I'm screwed up.
aye?
Yeah.
I think we're doing so well. Do we do bloopers for council meetings?
be it.
This will be a good blooper. So which one was this again that you were?
Should we start over?
H, thank you.
What was H?
Yep. For Newman's, or temporary extension. All those, can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So move, Councilmember Wong.
Second?
Acting Councilmember Norby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There.
Next up is the new license approval, on sale Sunday liquor license and on sale wine license for Everett Ventures, Inc., DBA The Den, is located at 2544 7th Avenue East.
So I just had a question because my understanding is that may be the K&J location. Sorry.
We're talking I, aren't we?
J.
J.
We're
J.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Wow.
My understanding is that is the K&J location. Do we have some sort of understanding of what the Den will be? Obviously, they're serving liquor, but I'm just trying to understand where they are at in their process, because again, this is just really new news. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand that.
It's my understanding that they are going to have a food component and possibly still keep some of the adult daycare. I'm not 100% sure of what their planned use is. I don't even know if they've pulled building permits for the interior yet. So they're working through their processes to try to get a business going. So this one does feel a little premature.
If I could just chime in here, what the council would do would approve the liquor license, and the state would go in and do an inspection. So it's not like they would be able to serve alcohol. The state goes in and inspects to make sure that they can do that first before they would be granted that permit.
So we're not giving any, like a nod to the state that says we're in favor of this?
You're saying that you would allow them to have,
Okay.
correct, yep, but the state is ultimately the one who would approve or deny that.
I might add that it may be appropriate, and I would like to get Soren's input on this, to perhaps amend the resolution of approval to indicate that this is only, would only go into effect at some future point when they have been granted occupancy for a use that allows a liquor establishment.
It seems to be a cart before the horse type.
Does feel that way to me. We haven't really received.
Now that I explained, I'm glad you pulled that one.
We haven't received the permits. I don't know what the land use is. I don't know if they meet the zoning requirements. So having a liquor license approval at this point does feel premature.
I'd like to know more about what that is and what's going in there.
So Ben, is any inspection? I mean, you say there's really been nothing happening over there? Is what?
Nothing that the city has been made aware of.
Been checking, like, you know, we're okay, we're ready for electrical, we're ready for plumbing, nothing like that? Okay.
To my knowledge, they have not done construction that would need that yet, but we don't even know that as far as even occupancy yet, so this is a little early for this.
Yeah, I think what you said, totally, the use, I'm not sure if it really matches.
Okay.
Plus, we had a heck of a blooper while you were gone too, so you missed that.
Can review that for later.
I'll leave you guys alone.
I know.
You really can't.
We are reviewing item
Jay.
J. And our general feeling, I believe, is that they're putting the cart before the horse a little bit.
Okay.
So we wanted to know if we could approve this with a contingency upon them doing the other stuff right.
What? And-
The deeds, or the den.
Yep, nope, I've got it. What is it that you're concerned hasn't happened?
So my understanding is that that was supposed to be an adult daycare center. So,
We're not ready.
so I'm not clear on what the use is at
they're
this
asking for a
point.
liquor
And now
license.
they're asking for a liquor license. So that's kind of where yeah.
We don't know what the business
Is going to be.
exactly. Right
They
now,
have not pulled
it's
any
all over the
building
map.
permits yet with the city. This is the first permit that's come through, so it's a little unclear what the end use will be.
So we don't have to, we can deny it right
Table it,
now. I'd say we
or-
pull it. We don't know anything that's happening.
Probably table it
Yeah.
when they're ready.
Okay, so I mean, to get the liquor license, did they list what their business was, Brandy? Or Jenny?
They submitted their food license, so it was reviewed by everybody who's supposed to approve it, including attorney.
No,
approved it.
Jack, I'm sure Jack looked at it, I get it. Well, if you want to lay it over to answer those questions, I would prefer that instead of denying it, we just continue it until the next council meeting so we can answer those questions. So the question that's been posed is, what is the underlying business?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just more information moving forward.
Have you voted on it yet?
No, no.
So then I would ask for a motion to continue the item J to the June 2023 council meeting.
I will move.
Councilmember Wong,
Second?
Councilmember Norby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I think it may be appropriate to maybe have them come to council as well and have a discussion with you guys.
We want to support, you know, we want to know what they're doing so we can help support their business. Figure out what's happening.
Indeed. Next up, resolution approving firefighter declaration on dual position.
So my understanding is that this expands or includes additional coverage for retirement for a couple positions. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what the economic impact would be or the financial impact that would be on the city?
I'm going to turn this over to Jenny quickly, but so the dual position that they were talking about, and this is for employees in the fire department, that dual position being that they are a firefighter and they are also code enforcement or inspections. That's the dual role of what that's addressing, but I will turn over the rest to Jenny.
So Minnesota law requires that employers certify the eligibility of certain employers, which one of them happens to be those that are not full-time firefighters. PERA is what we are talking about, and we have had them in the class of police and fire, which police and fire pays in a higher percentage than coordinated. So PERA sent us a letter just to make sure that we had them classified in the right class. And so they asked us for copies of their job description, which we provided. We have been putting them in the right class, but they need a resolution saying that that is approved because of the dual position. So it's just a recommendation that they need them to stay in that classification of police and fire in the PERA.
So nothing's changing, just.
Nothing's changing. No, they just, yep, but they do need a resolution on file stating that that is correct.
Thank you for that clarification.
Are you good with it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So moved, Your Honor.
Hey. Second?
Second?
Councilmember Norby. All those in favor say aye.
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 It's a shy crowd for the seconds.
All right, next up is reports of the city manager and departments. So we got Public Works. The McKnight project is done. They've got most of the asphalt back, and then it's just more or less striping of the road yet. So that project went really well. Public Works has their new full-time person start on next Monday that you guys had approved, so that's wonderful. Fortunately, we're starting off our summer with the school out and kids trying to occupy themselves. We're getting tagged up with some things. They've been taking things out of Rotary Park. It had to be closed for a couple days. We had some water piping that was removed, fittings that were removed. So they're back up and running, which is great. And as well as Silver Lake is now been open, and that reconstructions are also complete. So that's great. They will be hooking up the water and sewer tie-in for the student-built house. And they're looking at probably the third week in July as being the completion and getting it out for sale. So that project went well as well. Electric department's been out. They're working up on Silver Lake. They're redoing the lights that are up there. They're adding a couple more, and they're more staggered to where they should be. I don't know what it was once upon a time, but some of them lights were all over the place. But now they're along the trail, and they're gradually working on that. And of course, doing the work on Sepulveda Boulevard for the Lilly project. They have, we had a bore contractor out there today that had some of the pipe installed, and they'll be working for the next couple of days, putting more pipe in the ground for them. PD has their new officer that they have hired. I don't recall the start date for that, but they do, a gentleman coming from Ramsey County, Officer Bonin, so we'll welcome him shortly. Also, we got the Touch Truck event coming up. City's hosting its annual Touch Truck Night, Friday, June 9th from 4 to 8 p.m. You can find all of our big trucks there on the corner of Charles and 7th Avenue. It's on the southeast corner there that will be set up in the normal place. In addition to the big trucks, you can check out the Seatbelt Convincer, try some craft projects and on the art cart, and take the park and open space survey, meet city staff, and pick up a dash plaque while they last. Also, we'll be having music in the park, so you can join us for that. For the season on Thursday, June 15th at 7 p.m. Bring a lawn chair and head to Casey Lake Park to listen to the sounds of Brio Brass. So, and lastly, Juneteenth is now an official holiday. The city of North St. Paul will observe Juneteenth holiday on Monday, June 19th. City offices will be closed. Our police, fire, electric, and public works are always ready for any kind of emergencies and available. See the website and our Facebook page for emergency contact information. That's all I have.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Reports from council, commission, and committees. Councilmember Norby.
The planning commission met by a special on a Saturday, and we discussed everything that they talked about today. And our next meeting will be the first Thursday of July.
I don't have too much new with the Arts and Culture Commission, except they're just busy and out with art cards and getting some projects starting. And I think tomorrow evening is their meeting here at 6:30.
Can I ask you when they are going to be doing those wraps?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so we had some delay, just trying to make some decisions on some of the historical pieces, so that's been delayed to the next phase. However, the subgroup did go ahead and take what was voted on and submit that. So that will still be coming, but it did delay the entire project a little bit.
Thank you.
Again, more phases to come and a lot more community engagement to come as well.
Nothing too much to report from May 24th's meeting. However, just like Brian indicated, that on June 15th is the first Music in the Park. And I do want to provide a shout out to the police department. Brian, Tim, and I had the opportunity and the pleasure of attending the National Peace Officers Week hosted by the North St. Paul Police Department at St. Peter. I will definitely say that this ceremony was very raw, it was real, it was filled with emotion, and it was incredible to honor the fallen officers. What struck me the most was a widow of recent, and she was amazing. The whole service was well put on. It was incredible. So I give the credit to the police department. They did an outstanding job with this event. Lastly, we had an incredible first car show. I ran into Mayor Monge there. It was fabulous. Bob did an incredible job. I mean, especially with given all of the nuances in the city and what's happening with the construction. There were new vendors, there were old vendors, and it was just, we're back to our normal summer ways in North St. Paul. It's great. There's a new candy store in town called Sweeties. I highly recommend all of you guys to attend. It's really cool. It's an old school candy store, and they've made some money out of my family. So that's it.
Will they be doing like some sort of grand opening or?
I have discussed that with them, and right now they have my business card, and they're just trying to get their stuff opened. So I can tell you that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, their hours are from 11 to 6 p.m. So had to know those hours right away.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I had the privilege of being at the Memorial Day service at the park, Veterans Park, and it was a beautiful service and went very well. So that was a treat to be able to be a part of that. The only thing we're going to do is move it from 12 o'clock to 12:05 because as soon as we started talking, the sirens went off. That or have the siren maybe for that day. Either one, but it was beautiful ceremony. So I was privileged to be able to be a part of that. Car show went well. I was around the cart with Bob. We went around everybody had a good attitude for the first one. There was some change, and I know Bob said he was happy with how it went, so it was very exciting as far as being able to be a part of that and just see it. And I think it's, people, we coming out, and we're gonna figure out how it went, and then more cars coming, I'm sure. So we have a lot, people were parking way down quite a few blocks away, so it was a good event. General business, Councilmember Norby?
None at this time.
Councilmember Wong?
Happy Juneteenth and happy Pride Month.
Councilmember Swear?
Not this time.
All right, me either, so motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move, Councilmember Wong.
Second.
Second, Councilmember Norby. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hey, we got that one good. Thank you, everyone. Earned your key.